There is a theory in cosmology that haunts the edges of our understanding. The universe may already be dead, not dying, not decaying, dead, completely, irrevocably, and eternally silent. What we're witnessing, the stars, the galaxies, the brilliant explosions of light scattered across the void, may just be ghost signals from a cosmic body that stopped living long ago. Like the twinkle of a star that's already gone supernova, but whose light is only now reaching us, everything we see might be echoes. Light takes time to travel, and space is vast beyond comprehension. That means the past is all we ever see. We're not looking at the universe as it is. We're looking at what it was. The universe may already be dead, and we're just experiencing the fading light. The Andromeda Galaxy? What we see is 2.5 million years old. It could have blinked out the moment we invented fire, and we'd still be watching its shimmer like nothing happened. Every distant star is a lie our senses swallow. Every sunrise, every glint of starlight, possibly just the afterimage of a universe long turned cold. And if the universe has already undergone heat death, a state where no thermodynamic energy remains, no stars burn, no movement stirs, then all this, every memory, every hope, every heartbeat, could be unfolding inside a decaying simulation of light and perception. Entropy is relentless. It doesn't just wear things down, it guarantees their silence. And cosmologists warn that our universe is ruled by this law. One day, not only will the last star flicker out, but even black holes will evaporate, and space itself will become still. No information, no time, no light, the ultimate loneliness. And if that's true, the most disturbing part isn't the end. It's that it may have already happened. We're just watching the tape delay, like seeing a smile on a face that's already stopped breathing. It calls into question everything. Are we chasing futures in a universe that has none left? Are we clinging to purpose in a system already void of pulse? Or are we simply too small, too late, to realize we're living in the universe's final memory? One last flicker of light before the dark that never ends? Most of your thoughts are not your own. They're recycled echoes of cultural programming. The voice in your head, the one narrating your choices, reacting to your surroundings, deciding who you are and what matters. That voice might not actually belong to you. It feels like you, sounds like you, obeys your logic. But much of it has been installed, conditioned, trained into you long before you were old enough to question it. Most people grow up believing they think freely, that their preferences, fears, dreams, and values are self-made. But from the moment of birth, a quiet indoctrination begins. Language, norms, ideals, fears, all drip-fed by parents, schools, television, religion, social media. And over time, the mind stops noticing where it ends and where the world begins. What if the way you define success isn't yours? What if your sense of beauty was sculpted by magazine covers and movie scripts before you ever looked in a mirror? What if the shame you carry for being too much or not enough was never your burden to bear, but a script written by a system that profits off your self-doubt? From political beliefs to body image, from religious views to romantic expectations, most of it was absorbed unconsciously, like osmosis of the mind. The tragedy is, we rarely pause to question it. Instead, we defend these inherited ideas as if they are sacred, not realizing they were planted like software. And like software, they run on autopilot, repeating the same lines, steering the same reactions. It's why the same fears echo across millions of lives. Why people hate themselves for aging. Why so many crave validation. Why entire cultures chase the same impossible ideals. Because the programming is invisible. It's not designed to be noticed. It's designed to feel natural. But if you ever stop to listen closely, you might hear it. A voice in your mind that doesn't quite fit. A belief that doesn't serve you. A standard you never agreed to. That's the programming. And until it's uninstalled, questioned, rewritten. Every original thought might just be a rerun, a cultural ghost, whispering what to want, telling you who to be, and making sure you never realize. The thoughts were never yours to begin with. There are likely more undiscovered species of parasites than known. Animal species on Earth. It's comforting to believe that humans are at the center of biological complexity, that we've mapped the world's creatures, cataloged its mysteries, and placed ourselves atop a tidy pyramid of life. But beneath the visible surface of nature, hidden in fur, bloodstreams, intestines, feathers, and roots, there exists a shadow kingdom, a kingdom of parasites so vast, so intricate, and so deeply entangled with the world that we may never fully comprehend its scale. Scientists estimate that for every known animal species, there may be at least one or more parasitic species tied to it, and many hosts harbor dozens. That means for every beetle, every bird, every mammal, every fish, there could be an entire hierarchy of organisms living inside, on, or through them. These aren't just pests or nuisances. These are life forms evolved to manipulate, hijack, and even rewrite the behavior of their hosts. Fungi that zombify ants and force them to climb and die. Flatworms that turn fish into shimmering beacons to attract birds. Wasps that lay eggs inside caterpillars, whose larvae then eat the host from the inside out. Slowly. These are not horror stories. They are nature. And the terrifying part? We've only scratched the surface. Most parasites are too small, too remote, or too complex to detect with current methods. Deep in the oceans, inside tropical rainforests, inside the guts of creatures we haven't even discovered yet, entire ecosystems of parasites wait, unknown, undocumented. Some scientists suggest that up to 80% of Earth's total biodiversity could be parasitic. That means the planet isn't built on beauty or balance. It may be built on feeding, burrowing, hijacking, and surviving at the expense of others. And humans? We're not exempt. Our bodies are hosts to mites, bacteria, protozoa, and viruses, some of which have evolved with us for millennia. Some manipulate hunger. Others hijack mood. Some may even influence decision-making. We don't just live in ecosystems. We are ecosystems. Walking hotels for unseen guests. And while we like to believe we control the world, the disturbing truth is that the unseen life forms, those too small to scream, too subtle to see, might already control us. You never see the present moment. You're always living. 80 milliseconds in the past. Due to brain lag. The moment you're in, the exact second you're reading these words, is already gone. What you believe is now is a carefully constructed illusion, stitched together by your brain with a built-in delay. On average, everything perceived is lagging behind real time by about 80 milliseconds. It doesn't sound like much, but in that tiny gap, reality slips away unnoticed. The brain takes time to process light, sound, texture, emotion. Every image has to hit the retina. Every sound must vibrate the eardrum. Every sensation must travel a labyrinth of neurons before the brain finally says, "This is happening." But by then, it already happened. You're always reacting to a version of the world that no longer exists. Every movement is a guess. Every decision, slightly behind. You are never truly in the present. You're watching a delayed broadcast of your own life. This lag is why the world feels smooth instead of jarring. The brain blends everything together into a seamless movie, hiding the fact that your experience is always late to the scene. Vision is delayed. Touch is delayed. Even your awareness of your own body lags behind its actual position. You're not living in the world. You're living in a filtered, time-shifted rendering of it. And here's where it gets disturbing. In moments of crisis, that delay can stretch or shrink. Adrenaline slows down perception, making milliseconds feel like seconds. In trauma, time warps. And in rare cases, like after brain injury or with certain drugs, People become aware of the gap. They notice the delay. They see the world stutter. Most of us never do. We trust what we see, even though it's always outdated. A memory posing as a moment. This means that when someone touches your hand, you're not feeling it as it happens. When you speak, you hear your voice only after the moment passed. Every kiss, every scream, every blink. It's all behind you by the time you feel it. You are the ghost of your own present, existing just behind the truth. And if now is always just out of reach, the question becomes, does the present moment even exist at all? Or is it only ever something we're too late to catch? Ants can create civilizations with division of labor, farming, and even slavery, and they've done it longer than humans, beneath our feet, in the cracks of sidewalks and the shadows of forests. Entire civilizations rise and fall, structured, intelligent, and ruthlessly efficient. Not human ones. Ant ones. Long before humanity etched its first stone tool, ants had already mastered agriculture, warfare, city building, and social hierarchy. Their underground empires operate with clockwork precision, guided not by language or law, but by instinct so ancient it predates human civilization by tens of millions of years. Ant colonies are not mere swarms. They are societies. Complex networks of castes and roles, workers, soldiers, foragers, queens, each born to fulfill a purpose. The division of labor is astonishing. Some ants specialize in building tunnels, others in collecting food, others in tending to larvae or defending the borders. Their coordination is so precise that scientists compare their colonies to superorganisms, millions of bodies functioning as one mind. There are even funeral ants, whose sole task is to remove the dead. But it goes deeper. Some ants have developed agriculture. Leafcutter ants harvest foliage not to eat directly, but to use as compost to grow fungus, their primary food source. They've been farming this way for roughly 60 million years, long before humans discovered agriculture. They trim, weed, and protect their fungal crops from pests and mold. It's industrial farming in miniature. Then there is slavery. Certain ant species are known to invade neighboring colonies, kill or imprison the queens, and steal larvae. These stolen young grow up believing they belong to the captors and serve them as workers. These enslaved ants clean, forage, and tend to the needs of the colony that destroyed their own. It's calculated, cold, and eerily familiar. Ants wage war too, with organized ranks, strategic attacks, and even retreat tactics. Some scout ahead. Others sacrifice themselves to block tunnels with their bodies, forming literal barricades of flesh to protect the nest. The parallels to human combat are not metaphorical, they're evolutionary. And here's the most disturbing truth. Ants have been doing this longer than we've existed. Their empires were ancient before ours began. They don't build monuments, but they endure. They don't write history, but they outlive civilizations. While we dream of conquering planets, they've already mastered the planet beneath our feet. And they did it without ego, language, or fire. Just instinct, just time, just the quiet, relentless will to survive. Every person you pass on the street is living an entire life as vivid and complex as yours, yet you'll never know them. There's a strange, aching truth that hides in plain sight every day. Every person passed on the street, every stranger glanced at in a cafe, every face seen in a crowd at a train station. Each one is a complete world. A universe of memories, regrets, fears, laughter, childhood, pain, secret dreams, unspoken thoughts. They are not just background characters in your story. They are the main character in theirs. And their life is just as intense, confusing, beautiful, and real as yours. The man looking at his phone might be reading the last message his mother ever sent. The woman walking briskly past might be late to a job interview she's terrified of losing. The teenager in headphones could be drowning in depression, clinging to a single song. The child in the stroller might grow up to cure a disease you'll never hear about. These people have cried over heartbreak. They've been misunderstood. They've had moments of joy so deep it brought them to tears, and you will never know about a single one. It's called Sonder, the realization that everyone has a life as intricate as your own. And it's both beautiful and brutal, because once it hits, you see the world differently. The barista isn't just the barista. She's someone's daughter, maybe someone's first love, maybe someone's last conversation before they died. The man you argued with in traffic might be a widower who hasn't spoken to anyone all day. The person who ignored you might be grieving, or anxious, or somewhere deep inside their own storm. And yet, you'll never know. Their stories will never reach you. The memories they cherish, the shame they carry, the inside jokes, the childhood pets, the songs they associate with their first kiss, it all stays locked behind their eyes. You get a glance, a passing second, and then they vanish into their lives again, just like you vanish into yours. What makes this truth so quietly devastating is its finality. You could sit next to someone on a bus for an hour, share the same air, hear the same sounds, and never know that they are on the verge of a breakdown or the edge of a miracle. You brush against entire galaxies and never once realize how much depth you just passed by. You may have already forgotten some of the most important moments of your life. There's a terrifying fragility to memory, a softness to the mind that no one wants to admit. People assume the milestones are safe, that the big moments, first loves, turning points, life-changing conversations, are engraved in stone. But the truth is, memory is sand, not stone, and time is always blowing through it. Right now, some of the moments that shape the core of who you are may be missing from your awareness completely. Not because they weren't meaningful, but because your brain, silently and without warning, decided they weren't important enough to keep. It might have been a glance from a parent when you were small, a word that hit your soul at the right time, a moment of courage or collapse when no one was watching. Gone. Not erased, but quietly filed away somewhere unreachable, if it was stored at all. Memory doesn't record everything. It filters, it edits, it rewrites, and it loses track. Sometimes, the brain even hides certain memories as a form of self-protection, tucking away events that were too overwhelming or complex to process in the moment. Childhood is especially vulnerable. Most people remember a few bright flashes, but the vast majority of their earliest experiences, good or bad, are gone forever. And among them may be events that define the very way they love, trust, or fear. But it's not just trauma that disappears. Joy fades too. There are people who made you laugh until you cried, whose faces you couldn't forget at the time, but now you can't remember the sound of their voice. There were nights that felt eternal, where everything was right, where life felt full, that now live only as a vague warmth with no details left. Milestones you swore you'd never forget may have already slipped beneath the surface. And the most haunting part? You don't even know what's missing. There's no internal alarm, no blinking red light. The brain simply lets go, while you go on thinking you still hold the full story of your life. But you don't. You hold fragments, reconstructions, fictions patched together by emotion and repetition. The rest is gone. And you'll never even know what you've lost. The majority of the universe is made of something we can't see, touch, or understand: dark matter and dark energy. What if everything ever seen, every star, planet, tree, cloud, animal, or person, was barely a fraction of what truly exists? What if the entire visible universe, with all its galaxies and light and wonder, only made up less than 5% of what's actually out there? That's not science fiction. That's the current understanding of cosmology. According to the most accepted models, roughly 27% of the universe is made up of dark matter, and a staggering 68% is dark energy. That means 95% of the universe is invisible, untouchable, and almost entirely unknown. Dark matter does not emit, absorb, or reflect light. It doesn't interact with electromagnetic fields. No telescope can see it. Yet its presence is undeniable because of what it does. It holds galaxies together like ghostly glue. Without it, stars would drift apart. It warps light, bends space, and shapes the very fabric of reality from behind a veil no one has pierced. It's like something is there, whispering to gravity, leaving fingerprints on the cosmos, but always staying hidden in the shadows. Then there's dark energy, even stranger. It's not a thing. It's a force, or maybe a field, maybe a pressure. It isn't pulling us in. It's pushing us apart, accelerating the expansion of the universe. Over time, it may tear galaxies from each other, strip stars from galaxies, and leave everything isolated in an endless dark. It's not just unknown, it's anti-known. A presence without substance, an equation without context. The more it's studied, the less it makes sense. The most disturbing part? We may never truly know what either one is. Our instruments can't see them. Our hands can't touch them. Our minds aren't equipped to conceive of their nature. They defy the rules that shaped everything we thought was real. Which means this: reality, the one walked through daily, loved in, cried in, built around, is based on a sliver, a faint glimmer, a microscopic percent of what actually exists. The rest is concealed in silence. It's there, surrounding every breath, every thought, every planet. And yet, no one knows what it wants, or if it wants anything at all. Your brain can generate false memories, so convincingly that you'll swear they're real. The scariest lies aren't the ones people tell you. They're the ones your own mind whispers when it's trying to protect, explain, or fill in the blanks. The human brain doesn't store memories like a hard drive. It reconstructs them. Each time they're recalled, they're pulled from fragments and rewoven into a narrative. And in that reconstruction, truth can quietly bend. Details shift. People appear or vanish. Whole events emerge that never happened. This isn't speculation. It's neuroscience. Your memory is not a camera. It's a storyteller. And sometimes, it tells stories that never existed. False memories aren't limited to the blurry edges of childhood. They can involve people you love, places you've been, words you're convinced were said. Entire conversations can be fabricated, and emotions attached to them can feel just as strong as they would for something real. Studies have shown that people can be made to remember being lost in a mall as a child, hugging Bugs Bunny at Disneyland, an impossibility, or witnessing crimes that never happened, all with complete confidence. Not because they're lying, but because their brains stitched together suggestions, emotions, and imagery into something that felt real. And once it feels real, it becomes real, at least to the person remembering it. This doesn't just affect isolated incidents, it warps identity. If the mind can invent moments and attach deep emotion to them, then your very sense of who you are, your guilt, your joy, your relationships, is vulnerable to illusion. You might love someone more or less because of a memory that didn't happen. You might avoid something because of a fear rooted in fiction. You might carry shame for something you think you did, but never did at all. And the most terrifying part? You have no internal mechanism to tell the difference. A false memory feels just like a real one. It uses the same neural pathways. It triggers the same emotions. The brain doesn't flag it as suspect. It files it alongside everything else, and you live by it, trusting it as truth. So when you say, "I remember," what you really mean is, "My brain gave me a story I believe." But belief isn't proof, and in that gap, reality begins to blur. Your body replaces nearly all its cells. Every 7 to 10 years, meaning you are not the same physical person over time. The body walked in today is not the one from a decade ago. It's not even the same body from last year. Almost every cell, every strand of skin, every drop of blood has quietly, invisibly been replaced. The liver regenerates itself. The skin sheds and renews. Bones, once thought permanent, are constantly broken down and rebuilt. Even the heart, so tied to identity and emotion, replaces its cells over time. In roughly 7 to 10 years, a near-total reconstruction has occurred. Which means this: the physical you from childhood doesn't exist anymore. That body died in slow motion, piece by piece, without a funeral. The version of yourself that fell in love for the first time? Gone. The hands that held a parent's fingers as a child? Gone. The lips that whispered secrets to a best friend? Replaced. We think of ourselves as continuous beings, solid and unchanging. But biology tells a different story, one of relentless impermanence. You are a shape made of moving parts, a memory that walks. This brings with it a haunting truth. The self is not anchored in matter. It's not your skin, not your hair, not your bones. All of those betray you over time. They dissolve, regenerate, fade. The person in the mirror is a replica of someone who no longer exists. And tomorrow, that face will be different again. Slightly, subtly, but irrevocably. And yet, despite this constant change, there's a strange illusion of continuity. The brain knits together this river of transformation into a narrative that feels like me. But the thread isn't physical, it's memory. Identity becomes a story told by an organ that itself is shedding neurons, remapping its pathways, reprogramming its chemicals. So what does this mean? If the body is a ship, and every plank is replaced over time, is it still the same ship? If every cell is swapped, are you still you? Or are we just ghosts inhabiting temporary forms, rebuilt constantly, never truly the same, yet carrying the burden of feeling whole? Perhaps the most disturbing truth is this: we are continuity dressed in impermanence, a flicker pretending to be a flame, and the person standing here today is already becoming someone else. There's no proof. Anyone sees the same color red. You do. We can only agree on labels, not experience. Look at the color red. Now imagine trying to describe it, not its name, but the raw experience of it, to someone else. Not its frequency, not its associations, but the feeling of red. You can't. And they can't describe theirs either. Because color isn't something seen, it's something experienced inside the brain. And here lies one of the most quietly disturbing truths about perception. No one actually knows whether anyone else sees the same world. Color is not a property of objects. It's a response created by your brain when light hits your retina and triggers cells designed to interpret wavelengths. Red, to you, is the result of your brain translating a certain frequency of light. But that translation is subjective. It happens inside your nervous system, filtered through the unique biology of your eyes and your mind. You and someone else may both point to the same apple and call it red, but that doesn't mean the color they experience is the same as yours. What if their red would look like your green if you could somehow switch eyes and brains? What if everyone has their own private color palette, but we've all agreed on the same names? The terrifying part is, there's no way to know, no test, no measurement. Conscious experience, what philosophers call qualia, is locked inside the skull, and color is just the beginning. The same goes for sound, taste, pain, even time. The world isn't what it is. It's what your brain says it is. This disconnect means reality might not be shared. It might be a collection of private hallucinations stitched together by language. And because we're trained from birth to match words with objects, We never question whether our inner realities match. We just assume they do. But maybe they don't. Maybe your version of red evokes passion, heat, warning, while someone else's evokes calm, softness, melancholy. Not because of emotion, because of perception, because the color they see, the red they've always known, might be something you'll never truly see. So when two people say, "That's red," they're not sharing an experience. They're just agreeing on a label. And beneath that agreement might lie a completely different world. Every cell in your body contains instructions for your death through programmed self-destruction, apoptosis. Buried deep inside every cell of the human body, coded into the very fabric of life, is a suicide plan. Not metaphorically, not philosophically, literally. Every cell you carry comes preloaded with a mechanism to end itself. Apoptosis. Programmed cell death. It's not disease, it's not malfunction. It's design. The blueprint of life includes its own eraser. This built-in kill switch isn't some rare glitch. It's happening right now. As these words are read, millions of cells in the body are quietly ending themselves. In the bones, the brain, the skin, the immune system. One by one, they receive the signal, or sense their time has come, and begin the process of clean, efficient self-destruction. Their DNA fragments, their membrane collapses. Their components are broken down and recycled like discarded parts in a cosmic machine. This is not an act of violence. It's an act of order, a cellular ritual. The same thing that shaped fingers in the womb by killing off the webbing between them. The same thing that kills off damaged cells before they mutate into cancer. Without apoptosis, life wouldn't function. It would rot. Organs would overgrow. Mutations would flourish. Bodies would collapse under the weight of their own unchecked replication. Death, in this sense, isn't the opposite of life. It's part of it, written into every heartbeat. And here's the disturbing part. This process doesn't wait until old age. It begins before birth. It continues without pause. Every second, thousands of cells are willingly, obediently tearing themselves apart for the sake of the whole. They want to die, or rather, they're built to. No sadness, no fear, just cold biological truth. Even the very cells that make up the mind, those that give rise to thoughts of love, purpose, or joy, carry the code that will eventually erase them. This raises a terrifying thought. If every building block of the body holds its own death note, then what is the body really made of? Not permanence, not stability, but planned decay. The human form isn't a monument. It's a choreography of controlled collapse, a structure built on sacrifice. And no matter how strong or healthy or young it feels, something deep within is always quietly preparing to end. Your skin is covered in thousands of bacteria per square inch, most of which are essential, but some could kill you if moved just a few inches. Your skin is not just a barrier. It's an ecosystem, a living, breathing biome made up of trillions of microorganisms. Every square inch of your body is home to thousands of bacteria, fungi, and viruses that form an invisible armor. To most people, that thought alone is unsettling. But it gets more disturbing when you realize that this microscopic world isn't just hitching a ride. It's keeping you alive. And also, potentially, waiting for a misstep. The bacteria on your skin aren't invaders. They're residents. Most of them have been with you since birth, passed on by your mother, the air, and every surface you've touched. They regulate your immune system, fight off dangerous pathogens, help you heal, and even influence how you smell to others. Without them, your skin would be raw, infected, and defenseless. But here's the dark twist. Some of these same bacteria, the ones that live harmlessly on your face, hands, or back, could become lethal if they simply relocate. Take Staphylococcus aureus, for example. On your skin, it often lives peacefully. But if it finds a cut, a surgical incision, or gets into your bloodstream, it can cause deadly infections. Flesh-eating diseases, sepsis, organ failure, all from something that was already living on your body, doing no harm. Another example is Propionibacterium acnes, which lives harmlessly in pores but can inflame and scar if trapped. These are not foreign enemies. They're native organisms turned deadly by a few inches of movement. It's like carrying loaded weapons around your body that only become dangerous if the rules are broken. A scraped knee, a popped blister, a poorly cleaned razor. These tiny openings are doorways for friendly bacteria to become fatal threats. What protects you is balance. The skin's microbiome is like a carefully tuned orchestra. Disrupt it through over-sanitizing, poor hygiene, or wounds, and that harmony collapses into chaos. So while most of your skin feels smooth, sterile, and safe, it's actually teeming with life. Life that keeps you safe. Life that could also end you. The line between guardian and executioner? Sometimes it's just a scratch. The you think you are is mostly an illusion, maintained through narrative memory and ego. The voice inside your head, the one narrating this sentence, recalling your name, your past, your preferences, your wounds, it feels like you. But it isn't. Not really. What feels like a stable, unified self is, in reality, a fragile illusion stitched together by memory, habit, and ego. There is no fixed you behind your eyes, just a story your brain is constantly rewriting, editing, and rehearsing. And that story is riddled with lies. The self isn't a single thing. It's a collage, a patchwork of roles, masks, reactions, and borrowed beliefs. What you call me is a bundle of memories strung into a timeline, but that timeline is flexible. It forgets, it distorts, it rewrites. The brain doesn't care about truth, it cares about coherence, and so it invents reasons for your actions after you've already made them. It deletes contradictions. It hides what doesn't fit. It makes the villain in your story someone else. It makes you the hero, even when you're not. And the ego? It's not your identity. It's your defense mechanism. It's the mask the brain wears to feel important, to survive social structures, to guard against annihilation. The ego tells you that you're the center of your own movie, that people are watching, judging, caring about your every move. But in truth, everyone's trapped in their own movie. No one is watching yours. Not really. Even your emotions aren't stable foundations of selfhood. What scares you today might excite you tomorrow. What you believed 10 years ago might embarrass you now. You are not the same person you were 5 years ago, and in 5 more, you'll cringe at who you are now. Yet the illusion persists. Because the alternative, that the self is a hallucination built on fleeting thoughts and chemical flickers, is too disorienting to live with fully. And so, the mind keeps narrating. This is who I am. This is what I believe. This is why I feel this way. But behind the curtain, the narrator isn't a person. It's a process. The voice isn't a truth. It's a trick. The self is not a fixed identity. It's a constantly shifting echo. And maybe the scariest truth of all is this: the person you think you are doesn't actually exist. The Earth is hit by 100 tons of space dust. Every day, some of which could carry alien microbes. Every single day, without pause, Earth is showered by space. Not in fireballs or glowing meteors, but in fine, invisible dust. Roughly 100 tons of cosmic debris rains down from above, drifting silently through the atmosphere like ashes from an unseen fire. It settles on rooftops, seeps into oceans, lands on your skin, and becomes part of the soil you walk on. It's not just dust, it's remnants of ancient collisions, comet trails, shattered asteroids, and possibly visitors. Because here's the disturbing truth: we have no idea what rides in on that dust. Scientists know that some meteorites contain organic compounds, amino acids, carbon structures, the building blocks of life. We've even recovered space rocks containing molecules that never originated on Earth. And in the most unsettling twist, some theories suggest that microbes, living or dormant, could survive the violent journey through space and re-entry, tucked safely inside these particles. This is called panspermia, the idea that life didn't start on Earth, but arrived from space, carried by dust, rock, or comet ice. It's not science fiction. In lab experiments, certain extremophiles, organisms that can survive extreme conditions, have proven capable of enduring radiation, vacuum, and the cold of space. Deinococcus radiodurans, for example, can survive the kind of radiation that would obliterate human DNA. Spores of bacteria can go dormant for thousands of years and awaken when conditions are right. So imagine what could be hiding in that daily dusting of alien matter. Not little green men, but seeds. Ancient biological seeds looking for a place to grow. And once that dust lands, it doesn't stay isolated. It mixes with ecosystems. It melts into water supplies. It becomes part of rain. There is no customs checkpoint in the atmosphere. Earth is porous. And the terrifying possibility is that one speck of cosmic dust might someday introduce a microbe with no earthly counterpart. Something the immune system doesn't recognize. Something that doesn't play by Earth's rules. Right now, it's happening. Right now, as you read this, space is falling on your house, your lungs, your hair. A soft, quiet storm of cosmic memory. Some of it billions of years old. And maybe, just maybe, some of it alive. You've likely walked past a murderer without knowing it. There's a chilling possibility that haunts ordinary life more than most dare to admit. At some point, you have probably stood beside, brushed shoulders with, or shared a fleeting glance with someone who has taken a life. Not in a courtroom, not behind bars, but in a grocery store, on public transport, at a concert, in line at a coffee shop. Murderers don't always wear masks. They don't come marked. Some live in plain sight, smiling, shopping, aging quietly next door. The numbers don't lie. There are tens of thousands of unsolved murders across the globe, many committed by people who were never caught. Others were caught, served time, and released into the world again, given a new name, a new address, a new start. Some are war veterans who killed with orders. Others are former gang members, traffickers, or desperate people pushed beyond a breaking point. Some are calculated monsters. Others were ordinary until a single night changed everything. But regardless of motive or memory, their histories are invisible to the strangers they pass. And that's what makes it so disturbing. You could have made eye contact with someone who ended a life, and never known. They might have held the door open for you, handed you change, asked you for directions. The handshake that felt firm, the smile that seemed friendly. It might have all come from someone who once looked another human being in the eyes, and chose to end them. Most people don't want to believe this. It threatens the illusion of safety. We want to believe murderers are monsters locked away, easily identifiable, far removed from everyday life. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. Humanity is capable of unfathomable violence, and much of it wears a familiar face. Kindness, charm, normalcy, all can mask a history too dark to imagine. And even if justice was served, memory cannot be erased. A killer can walk free. But what they did walks with them. So the next time you pass a stranger and feel an eerie sense of unease, or perhaps nothing at all, remember this. It's entirely possible that someone once took a life and then blended right back into the world without a trace. Maybe they were standing right behind you. Maybe they still are. Most of the atoms in your body were once inside a dying star. Everything you are, your bones, your blood, the neurons firing inside your skull, once burned inside the heart of a dying star. The calcium in your teeth, the iron in your blood, the oxygen in your lungs, even the carbon forming the very blueprint of your DNA. None of it was born on Earth. All of it was forged in the catastrophic collapse of massive stars, in the final, violent breath of a supernova. You are not just made of stardust. You are a direct continuation of cosmic death. When stars reach the end of their lives, they don't fade gently. They explode. The heat and pressure in these last moments are so intense that they produce heavy elements, things that never existed before. Gold, silver, uranium, iodine, iron, zinc, copper. Every atom heavier than helium came from these explosions. The force scatters the atoms across the galaxy, sending them drifting for millions, sometimes billions, of years. Eventually, some of that dust clumps together to form new solar systems, new planets, and life. Your body is made from this ancient detritus. Right now, you are walking around with pieces of stellar corpses inside you. The same matter that once illuminated galaxies is now blinking behind your eyes. The same atoms that once floated through cold interstellar space are now pulsing with heat, with hunger, with consciousness. You are a biological mosaic of dead stars that died long before Earth was born. And the most haunting part? These atoms have no memory of what they were. They simply became what the universe needed next. Your body is not an isolated event. It's a temporary shape that matter took on its long journey through time. One day, it will fall apart again. Ashes to ashes, atoms to atoms. And when that happens, your elements will return to the cycle, perhaps to become part of a tree, a storm, a mountain, or another life. You are stardust that became aware of itself. You are the echo of cosmic fire, now wrapped in skin and speaking in thought. And when you die, you won't vanish. You'll scatter. You'll return to the stars. Because you never really left. If the sun disappeared, we wouldn't notice for over 8 minutes. Right now, the sun could be gone, vanished, erased from existence, and no one on Earth would know. Not yet. That's because everything seen from the sun, its warmth, its brilliance, its life-giving presence, is delivered on a delay. Light takes time to travel. At 186,000 miles per second, it still takes over 8 minutes for sunlight to reach Earth. Which means the sun we see in the sky is not the sun as it is. It's the sun as it was, 8 minutes ago. If it were to suddenly vanish, snuffed out in some incomprehensible cosmic event, those 8 minutes would continue exactly as planned. The sky would stay blue. The light would shimmer through windows. Warmth would wrap around your skin like nothing had changed. Birds would sing. People would laugh. And for 8 minutes, life would carry on under a dead star, unknowingly orbiting the absence of everything. And then, nothing. The moment would come like a trapdoor beneath the world, not slowly, not gradually, instantly. Light gone, warmth gone, gravity undone. The Earth, no longer anchored, would spiral into the void. The sky would blacken as if someone had torn out the heavens. The air would cool in rapid descent. Power grids would fail. Panic would rise. And still, no one would truly understand what had happened, because the cause had disappeared minutes before the consequences ever reached us. It's a terrifying reminder that we don't live in real time, that even the most vital force in our lives operates on a delay. The sun isn't here. Its presence is a memory in motion. And this delay applies to everything. The stars seen at night? Some died long before our ancestors ever took breath. Their light just hasn't caught up to the loss. The universe is a theater of echoes. We don't witness the cosmos as it is. We witness its afterglow. And maybe the most disturbing part isn't just the 8-minute lag. It's this. The illusion of continuity we trust with our lives could shatter at any moment, and we wouldn't even know until it's far too late. The majority of the ocean remains unexplored. We know more about Mars than our own seabeds. The surface of the ocean shimmers like an open book. But beneath that glittering skin lies a darkness more mysterious than outer space. Over 70% of Earth's surface is covered in water, yet over 80% of it remains completely unexplored, unmapped, unseen, unknown. We send rovers to Mars and satellites to Saturn's moons, yet the crushing pressure and inky blackness of our own planet's depths have kept most of it hidden. That means the world you think you live in, the familiar globe on your maps and globes, is largely a myth. We've walked on the moon, we've taken selfies on Mars, but we haven't even touched the bottom of our own oceans. In fact, we've mapped the surface of Mars with far greater resolution than the majority of our planet's seafloor. The Mariana Trench, the deepest part of Earth's oceans, is a place fewer people have visited than have stood on the moon. Why? Because the ocean isn't just deep, it's alien. Down there, sunlight disappears, temperatures drop to near freezing, and the pressure is so immense it can crush submarines like soda cans. And yet, life thrives there. In total darkness, with no oxygen, no photosynthesis, and toxic chemicals gushing from hydrothermal vents, creatures survive. Some glow with their own light. Others have evolved transparent skin, massive teeth, or no eyes at all. Biologists believe that thousands, possibly millions of species still wait undiscovered in the deep. We're not talking about small differences. We're talking about entire ecosystems humans have never seen, functioning under rules we don't understand. There are likely predators we've never imagined, jelly-like organisms with unknown biologies, and bacteria that could rewrite what we think life even is. And what else hides there? Ancient shipwrecks, lost cities, geological secrets older than our species. There are volcanoes under the ocean larger than anything on land. There are trenches deeper than Mount Everest is tall. Some of the planet's most powerful earthquakes and tsunamis begin miles beneath the sea, completely unnoticed until they rise up in violence. So the next time you look at a map, remember, most of the Earth is not green or brown or gold. It's blue. And inside that blue is a darkness so vast, so unknown, so filled with silent worlds, that it may as well be another planet. And it's still waiting for us. Time doesn't flow. It's a human illusion, created by memory and entropy. Time feels real, unstoppable, like a river carrying everything forward: birth, aging, decay, death. Seconds ticking, days passing, years stacking behind us. But the deeper physics goes, the more this feeling dissolves. The concept of time flowing, of a now moving through the universe, is not a law of nature. It's a product of how our brains interpret change. Time, as we feel it, may not exist at all. In the equations that govern the universe, Einstein's relativity, quantum mechanics, the behavior of light and matter, there's no built-in now, no universal clock. In fact, time doesn't even move. It just is. All moments, past and future, exist simultaneously on the same block of space-time. Your birth, your final breath, everything you've done or will do, they all exist, frozen in the fabric of the universe. Time doesn't pass. We pass through it. So why does it feel like it flows? The answer lies in two things: entropy and memory. Entropy is the tendency of things to move from order to disorder. A broken glass stays broken. A cooled cup of tea doesn't reheat itself. The universe evolves in one direction, toward chaos. This arrow of entropy is what creates the illusion of time's direction. Your brain is structured to observe this increase in entropy and translate it into a timeline. That's where memory comes in. You remember the past because it was more ordered than the present. You can't remember the future because it hasn't been organized yet. The difference between what was and what is gives rise to the sensation of time. But without memory, there is no time. A creature with no memory would live in a constant now, no before, no after, just sensation. which means time isn't an external truth. It's a trick of human cognition, a byproduct of how we track change. The clocks we trust are measuring motion, not time itself. Seconds are artificial. Calendars are stories. And the future isn't ahead of us. It's already there, waiting. So when people say, time heals, they're leaning on a fiction. Time doesn't move. We do. And we're carrying with us the only thing that makes the illusion feel real: our memories of what we think just happened. Sleep is still not fully understood, and if we go too long without it, we hallucinate and die. Sleep is something every human needs, more deeply and desperately than food, more predictably than love. But here's the chilling truth: we don't fully understand why. We know we need it. We know that without it, the mind unravels. But the exact reason sleep is so essential, so utterly non-negotiable, remains one of biology's greatest mysteries. We spend roughly a third of our lives unconscious, vulnerable, and immobilized. Evolution rarely permits such weakness unless it's absolutely vital. Which means sleep isn't optional. It's wired into survival. And the cost of skipping it is nothing short of terrifying. Within 24 hours of sleep deprivation, the brain begins to falter. Concentration drops. Emotions become volatile. Memory gets scrambled. After 48 hours, the body starts breaking down its own muscle tissue. Hormones spike and crash. But it's after 72 hours that the line between reality and delusion starts to blur. People begin hallucinating, hearing voices, seeing figures, feeling things that aren't there. The brain, desperate for rest, begins dreaming while awake. It creates its own version of sleep, a chaotic, unstable state where dreams and reality merge. And it gets darker. Go just a few days longer without sleep, and the body begins to self-destruct. Blood pressure rises. Organs begin to fail. The immune system collapses. The mind becomes fractured, paranoid, terrified. In extreme cases, such as in a rare condition called fatal familial insomnia, the inability to sleep leads to total mental and physical collapse, followed by death. Not from injury, not from disease, from the absence of sleep alone. No one can survive without it. Not animals, not humans, not even insects. Lab rats deprived of sleep die within weeks. And yet, for something so essential, so universal, science still cannot answer a simple question: why do we sleep? We know the brain uses that time to repair, to consolidate memory, to flush toxins. But none of these alone explains why skipping sleep is fatal. That means we're entrusting our lives every night to a force we don't fully comprehend. And when it's taken from us, when insomnia becomes unrelenting or chemically enforced, the consequences aren't just exhaustion. They are madness. They are death. Sleep is not rest. It is survival. And without it, the mind eats itself from the inside out. Your stomach lining dissolves itself. Every few days to prevent digestion of your own body. Inside you is a chemical war zone. Your stomach doesn't just digest food. It contains one of the most corrosive substances on Earth: hydrochloric acid. Strong enough to dissolve metal, potent enough to break down meat, and yet it doesn't eat you. Why? Because your body walks a terrifying tightrope, one where the stomach must constantly rebuild itself to avoid being digested by its own acid. Every few days, your stomach lining commits microscopic suicide. It sheds itself in layers, sloughing off cells that are already eroding under the acid's relentless attack. And it doesn't do this once or occasionally. It does it perpetually, silently, without thanks. This isn't maintenance. It's survival. If this regenerative process slows or fails, even for a brief window, your own digestive system will turn on you. The acid will begin burning holes into your stomach, leading to ulcers, bleeding, and in severe cases, death. Your body is one delay away from self-destruction. The irony is brutal. The very mechanism that keeps you alive, digestion, is a constant threat to your survival. Your stomach acid doesn't care what it touches. It doesn't distinguish between a steak and skin. The only thing that protects you from being slowly dissolved from the inside out is a mucus lining, a few millimeters thick, replenished just fast enough to stay ahead of the acid's hunger. Think about that. Every bite you eat, every meal you enjoy, happens inches away from lethal corrosion. And the worst part? You don't feel it. You aren't even aware that you're a chemical paradox, filled with an acid bath powerful enough to cause third-degree burns, and only kept in check by a fragile, ever-renewing membrane. It's like carrying a ticking bomb in your gut, one your body has to defuse every day, over and over again. So while the rest of you sleeps, laughs, walks, and dreams, your stomach is fighting a war beneath your consciousness. Not against invaders, not against disease, but against itself. Because left unchecked, even your own body is a threat to your survival. Free will might be an illusion. Decisions are often made milliseconds before you're aware of them. The story of selfhood feels solid. We make choices, weigh options, decide what to say, what to want, what to become. We feel in control, agents steering the wheel of our lives. But neuroscience suggests something far more unsettling. The decisions we think we're making may already be made before we're conscious of them. That moment of choosing? It might just be theater. A performance your brain puts on to make you feel in control, while the real decision happened milliseconds earlier, out of sight, in silence. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted a now infamous experiment. He asked participants to flex their wrists whenever they felt like it. Free choice. While doing this, their brain activity was monitored. What he discovered shook science. The brain showed a spike in readiness potential, a clear sign a decision was brewing, before the participant reported consciously choosing to act. In other words, the brain made the choice hundreds of milliseconds before the person felt like they made it. Later studies pushed that gap even further, up to 7 seconds before awareness. 7 seconds. That's the space between your free will and your brain's hidden operations. This suggests something radical. That your conscious mind may be more of a narrator than a driver, spinning stories about decisions it never actually made. And it doesn't stop with muscle movements. Emotional reactions, moral judgments, even political preferences often arise first in unconscious neural activity, then are rationalized after the fact, with explanations that feel like choices. Think of a time you said something cruel, or comforting, or impulsive. Did you decide it, or did it rise in you, fully formed? What if all your life's decisions, what you love, who you forgive, what you fear, are outcomes of neural processes shaped by genetics, trauma, experience, and luck? What if free will is just a side effect of being aware after the fact? This doesn't mean there's no agency, but it means the freedom you feel may not be where you think it is. The self you identify with, the thinker, the decider, might be the echo, not the voice. And if that's true, then the person reading this right now isn't the one choosing to believe it. That choice may have already been made, before you even knew it was happening. The human brain is hardwired to prioritize negative experiences over positive ones for survival. You could hear 10 compliments and 1 insult in a day, and it's the insult that plays on repeat as you lie in bed at night. That's not weakness, that's wiring. Deep inside the human brain lies an ancient survival mechanism that favors negativity. It's not psychological pessimism, it's biological defense. For millions of years, focusing on threats kept our ancestors alive. The rustle in the bushes, the scowl from a rival, the sign of disease, these weren't just unpleasant experiences. They were warnings. And the brain, evolving in a brutal world, learned quickly. Ignore joy, but never ignore danger. This is called the negativity bias, a baked-in tendency to register negative stimuli more vividly, more urgently, and more durably than positive ones. A kind word may lift your mood for minutes. A harsh one can echo for years. Positive memories fade like mist, but negative ones carve themselves into the neural circuitry with alarming permanence. It's why we fixate on criticism, replay awkward moments, and anticipate failure even when things are going well. The brain isn't trying to hurt you, it's trying to protect you. In ancient times, this made sense. Remembering the location of a predator or the sting of a poisonous plant could mean the difference between life and death. Joy never needed to be remembered. Pleasure wasn't dangerous. But pain kept you alert. And so, the brain evolved a lopsided system. Fear over fun, shame over pride, doubt over confidence. But in the modern world, this ancient wiring becomes a curse. Most of us aren't dodging lions or surviving famines. Yet the brain reacts to a harsh email or a public mistake with the same intensity it once reserved for mortal danger. Stress chemicals flood the system. Thoughts loop. Positivity becomes a whisper. Negativity becomes a scream. The worst part? You don't get to vote on this. It happens automatically, subconsciously. Even the stories you tell yourself about your worth, your future, your past, are filtered through this distorted lens. Not because they're true, but because your brain evolved to believe what would keep you alive, not what would make you happy. So when people say, just focus on the good, they're speaking against millions of years of evolution. Your brain isn't broken. It's just doing what it was built to do. Spot shadows, not light. Every time you remember something, you're not remembering the original event. You're remembering the last time you remembered it. Memory feels sacred. A vault in the mind, carefully storing the moments that made us who we are. We believe our memories are time capsules, unchanged, faithful, untouched by the passing years. But memory doesn't work like a recording. It works like a story told around a fire, fluid, flawed, and shaped by every retelling. Neuroscience has revealed something haunting. Every time you recall a memory, you don't access the original. You access the version you last remembered. And when you do, your brain rewrites it ever so slightly. You remember a copy of a copy. And that copy gets fuzzier, more distorted, more biased, every time you bring it back to life. This process is called reconsolidation. Each time a memory is recalled, it becomes temporarily unstable, pliable. In that fragile moment, it can be altered by your current mood, beliefs, or even external suggestions. When it's stored again, it's not the original version. It's the edited one. Which means the memory you trust most, the moment you swear happened exactly that way, may have never happened that way at all. Your happiest childhood memory might include a person who wasn't there. Your worst moment might be painted with shadows darker than reality, and you'd never know the difference. This effect is more than theoretical. Eyewitness testimonies have been proven dangerously unreliable for this reason. People can be made to remember things that never happened, or change key details simply by the way a question is asked. But this isn't about lying. This is about the fragile architecture of human thought. A structure built not on stone, but on shifting sand. Your identity is a tapestry of memory. Who you love, what you regret, the lessons that shaped you. They all depend on what you remember. But if those memories are shifting, morphing, becoming fictions woven with emotion and guesswork, then the self you believe in is unstable too. You are not a keeper of history. You are an author who doesn't realize they're rewriting their life story every time they read a page. And one day, you may look back with certainty on a moment that never existed the way you think it did. Because the mind doesn't preserve. It revises. And you are living in the edits. Most dreams are forgotten. Within 10 minutes of waking, along with entire psychological worlds. Every night, you become someone else. You love people who don't exist. You face fears you don't remember having. You build cities from nothing, wage wars with no history, and feel joy, terror, intimacy, and loss with a vividness that rivals waking life. These aren't just flickers of thought, they're full psychological universes, stories with plots, characters, rules. And yet, within 10 minutes of opening your eyes, nearly all of it vanishes. The names, the faces, the truths you believed in while you slept, erased. The human brain doesn't treat dreams like memories. It treats them like smoke. The moment consciousness returns, it clears the stage, wipes the blackboard, and pretends it never happened. Sometimes you get fragments, a lingering image, a sudden rush of emotion. But the rest? It's gone. Not lost like a misplaced key. Gone like it was never real. Except it was real. To the dreaming mind, just as real as any memory you carry. You cried in that world. You failed. You triumphed. You loved people so deeply your chest ached. And now you can't even recall their names. Why does the brain do this? One theory is that the architecture of dreams bypasses the hippocampus, the region responsible for transferring short-term memories into long-term storage. Dreams are created in the limbic system, driven by emotion and instinct rather than logic and chronology. They're raw, fluid, unreal by design. And because they aren't anchored in the same neural pathways that waking life uses, they dissolve when the mind shifts back to the constraints of the real world. But here's the part that truly unsettles. You've lived hundreds, maybe thousands, of dream lives you'll never remember. Whole relationships that played out in your sleep. Lessons, wounds, moments of grace that shaped you in the dark, then disappeared at sunrise. You are a graveyard of forgotten realities. Your dreams don't just entertain, they reveal who you are when no one is watching. When the ego sleeps. When time doesn't exist. And every morning, without even knowing it, you bury those selves. So while your days feel like the story of your life, your nights are whole lifetimes you've already forgotten. And what if the truest version of you isn't the one that wakes up, but the one that disappears before you even know it existed? The last sense to fade. Before death is usually hearing. People may hear their loved ones cry or talk as they slip away. In the final moments of life, when breath weakens and vision dims, one sense often lingers like a ghost refusing to leave: hearing. Long after a person can no longer move, speak, or even open their eyes, they may still hear every word whispered around them, every sob, every confession, every "I love you." As the body shuts down and the lights begin to fade, the mind may still be listening, silently, from the other side of speech. Hospice nurses have long known this intuitively. Families are told to speak gently, kindly, honestly, to say what matters most, because the dying may still be able to hear, even if they can't respond. And now, science is catching up. Studies using EEG monitoring have recorded brain activity in unresponsive patients mere moments before death, activity that suggests auditory processing continues, even as other systems collapse. The ears may no longer move, the heart may slow, but the brain still reacts to sound. It's as if the world doesn't want to leave without one last goodbye. It's one of the most hauntingly human facts there is. People may hear their loved ones crying beside them. They may hear the tension in a voice trying not to break. They may hear apologies too late to be fixed. Or love, finally spoken aloud. The body may be still, but the heart may be listening. The mind may be recording its final impressions, anchored not by light or touch, but by sound. And this isn't just poetic, it's unsettling. Because it means someone may die with their last conscious awareness filled not with peace, but with panic or grief. It means the energy in the room, the words chosen, the things left unsaid, might be etched into the brain at its most vulnerable point. The threshold of departure. 1 foot in the world, 1 foot out, and ears still open. So when the voice fades, and the eyes no longer open, know this: the soul might still be holding on through sound. That final "I'm here," that trembling "I love you," it may not go unheard. In the silence of the body, hearing remains. And sometimes, it's the last thing we ever give or take. There are millions of surveillance cameras watching people around the world, and many are unsecured and viewable online. In cities, in suburbs, in schools, stores, bedrooms, and hospitals, millions of unblinking eyes watch humanity every second. Surveillance cameras have become the wallpaper of modern life. Most people don't notice them anymore. We've normalized the quiet presence of lenses above doors, inside elevators, behind mirrors, embedded in traffic lights and doorbells. We tell ourselves it's for safety, for security, for peace of mind. But what most don't realize is that many of these cameras are not locked, not encrypted, not secured. They're live, they're public, and they're watching right now. There are entire websites that exist solely to aggregate feeds from unsecured surveillance cameras. No passwords, no warnings, just windows into real lives, streaming 24/7. You can scroll through a bakery in Italy, a child's daycare in Arkansas, a man asleep in a living room in Japan. Not because they allowed it, but because someone forgot to protect the feed. The internet, without permission, became a voyeur's paradise. People go about their daily routines, cooking, arguing, grieving, loving, without knowing strangers can watch them with a few clicks. These aren't high-tech government satellites. They're baby monitors, security cams, pet cams, nanny cams, all connected to Wi-Fi and left wide open. Often, the default login credentials are never changed. Admin and 1234 can grant access to a family's most intimate spaces. And the terrifying part? Many of the people watching aren't hackers. They're regular users who stumbled into a loophole and never looked away. Curiosity turns into obsession. Privacy becomes performance. And even the secured cameras, government ones, corporate ones, are watching with no guarantee of ethical boundaries. Facial recognition software tracks commuters. Traffic cams log plate numbers. Smart cities experiment with emotion detection. All this data, movements, patterns, behaviors, is stored, analyzed, and sometimes sold. You are being recorded in airports, in stores, in streets, in buildings. But now, in an era of cloud-based streaming and careless security, you might also be watched in places you thought were safe. Not by a government, not by a corporation, but by a stranger, somewhere, with time to kill, and a browser window open. Because in this age, privacy isn't lost in a dramatic hack. It's surrendered quietly, through blinking red lights, through default settings, through cameras people forgot were still on. All the people in your dreams are versions of yourself, based on your brain's storage of faces and emotions. Every night, the mind becomes a theater. Scenes unfold, strangers appear. Conversations happen that feel real, urgent, emotional. But the faces you see, the people you interact with in your dreams, they're not visitors. They're not ghosts. They're not messages from beyond. They are you, every single one. Your brain doesn't conjure other people. It fragments your identity, your memories, your emotional history, and casts those pieces into roles, like an internal drama where you play every part. Even the ones that betray you, even the ones that comfort you. Your brain is incapable of inventing a truly new face. It can only use what it has seen. Faces in crowds, faces on screens, people long forgotten or deeply loved. Some might be familiar. Others may feel unknown, but they've all passed through your vision at some point, stored in the shadows of the subconscious. And yet, those appearances are just masks. What matters more is what they represent. Because when someone screams at you in a dream, it's not about them. It's about a part of you doing the screaming. When a lover comforts you, it's not their arms. It's your need for comfort wearing their skin. Dream characters are mirrors, shaped by your emotional fingerprints. A furious teacher might represent your own self-criticism. A disappearing parent could be the embodiment of abandonment, loss, or longing. These aren't literal people. They're symbolic performances, and your brain chooses which parts of your emotional reality to spotlight each night, stitching together faces and feelings into dreamscapes designed not to entertain, but to regulate, release, and reveal. Sometimes, that makes dreams deeply healing. Other times, disturbingly confrontational. You might wake up hating someone for something they did in a dream, because your subconscious used them to show you something you were avoiding. That guilt, that fear, that desire. It always circles back to you. And the strangest part? The person you dream as, the you navigating it all, isn't even the whole self. It's a construct too, a projection built from your waking identity. So when you dream, it's not you and others. It's just layers of you. Arguing with yourself, loving yourself, running from yourself. In a theater your conscious mind never built, but your subconscious never stopped directing. You shed about 40 pounds of skin in your lifetime. Most house dust is dead. Human cells. Every hour of every day, your body is quietly falling apart. Not dramatically, not visibly, but silently, in a constant whisper of decay. Tiny fragments of your outer self, microscopic flakes of skin, peel off and drift into the air like invisible snow. You don't notice it, you don't feel it. But it's happening, always. And over the course of a lifetime, those flakes add up to something deeply unsettling. Around 40 pounds of you. Gone. Flaked. Forgotten. Your skin regenerates itself roughly every 27 days, which means you're wearing a new version of yourself every month. But that regeneration comes at a cost. Millions of skin cells die daily, pushed from the inner layers to the surface, where they dry out, crack, and fall off. They don't vanish into nothingness. They become part of your environment. They settle into bedsheets, float through the air, cling to the fibers of carpets and curtains. The sunlight you see filtering through your window in the morning? Much of that glow is illuminated particles of dead human skin. And here's where it gets darker. That dust you wipe off your bookshelf, that layer of grime that collects in corners, that film that reappears no matter how often you clean. It's not just dirt. It's people. Mostly, it's you. Your body, disassembled in fragments. A ghostly presence of your biological past, quietly coating the furniture. But it's not just disgusting. It's intimate. You are quite literally leaving pieces of yourself in every room you enter, in every hotel you sleep in, every chair you sit on. You're shedding identity, DNA, memory, whether you mean to or not. What's worse is how other life forms depend on this. Dust mites, those microscopic scavengers, feast on the dead skin you leave behind. Entire ecosystems live off your constant decay. You are a walking paradox, regenerating while disintegrating. A body that renews itself by breaking itself down. And what you shed never really disappears. It just becomes part of the background. The air, the dust, the silence that builds in every room. So the next time you feel alone in your house, remember, some version of you is already everywhere. Watching, resting, settling. You will never perceive reality as it truly is, only through flawed biological filters, evolved for survival, not truth. The world you see, the colors, the sounds, the shapes, the sensations, feels concrete, reliable, real. But it's not. It's a simulation. Not in the science fiction sense, but in the biological one. Your senses don't show you the world as it is. They show you a curated, distorted, evolution-approved version of it. Every perception you've ever had has passed through a filter, not designed to reveal truth, but to keep you alive. Your eyes don't see the full spectrum of light. In fact, They only detect a tiny sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum, just enough to notice movement, food, danger. Bees see ultraviolet. Snakes sense infrared. Bats use sound to navigate. To each creature, reality looks wildly different. Not because their world is different, but because their brains are tuned differently, and humans are no exception. What you see is not the world. It's your brain's reconstruction of it. Your ears translate air pressure into sound. Your eyes translate light waves into color. But sound and color don't exist out there. They're sensations manufactured in your head. The redness of a rose, the warmth of a fire, the scent of rain. These are internal reactions, not external properties. The brain takes incomplete data and fills in the blanks, constantly editing, smoothing, deleting. What you call perception is really interpretation. And interpretation can lie. Optical illusions, false memories, phantom limbs. These are cracks in the system where the mask slips. Where you see just enough of the machinery to realize your version of reality is stitched together, not absolute. Even time, something we rely on to make sense of everything, can warp depending on speed, gravity, or trauma. Evolution didn't sculpt your senses to detect what's real. It sculpted them to detect what helps you survive. If a false perception kept your ancestors safer, nature selected it. If a delusion made someone more reproductively successful, it persisted. The result? A human experience that's rich in meaning, but bankrupt in objectivity. So the world you walk through each day, the people, the buildings, the very idea of self, is a best guess. A dream your brain keeps updating. Not to show you the truth, but to keep you functioning in a world far more complex, far more alien than you'll ever actually see. Statistically, your digital self, data, images, voice, may outlive your physical self by centuries. Long after your heart stops beating, your face may still be smiling on someone's screen. Your voice may still echo in audio files. Your words, captured in messages, posts, recordings, may continue to ripple through servers, social networks, and AI datasets for centuries. You will vanish. But the digital ghost you've created will remain, silently enduring, silently multiplying. Every photo you upload, every video you record, every line of text you send becomes part of a growing archive, one you may never fully control again. Cloud storage doesn't die when you do. Social platforms don't grieve, and unless manually erased, your digital footprints stay online, indefinitely. In fact, many of today's major tech companies already host the data of millions who are no longer alive. Entire virtual lives frozen in time, birthdays long past, last seen timestamps that will never update, unread messages sent by people who can no longer respond. And as artificial intelligence evolves, the use of this data becomes stranger. Already, AI can mimic your voice, replicate your writing style, even synthesize your face into convincing video, just from the fragments you've left behind. This means your digital self might not just persist. It might perform. It might be stitched into advertisements, training tools, or synthetic conversations without you ever knowing. It may even speak to your descendants, centuries from now, with a tone and face they never got to meet in real life. The haunting part? This version of you, this shadow, will never age. It won't forget. It won't die. It may continue to evolve, to be reshaped, reused, misused. One day, someone may find an old folder, open a file, and hear your voice for the first time, or the thousandth, long after your body has returned to dust. Statistically, your digital afterlife has better odds of longevity than your biological one. Hard drives can be backed up. Cloud systems don't age, and in the vast digital cemetery forming across the internet, you might already have a headstone, one you never wrote, never agreed to, and can never truly delete. The question isn't whether you'll leave a legacy. It's whether it'll still be you, or just a memory pretending to be. There are animals that are biologically immortal, like the Turritopsis dohrnii, jellyfish. In a world defined by decay, where every heartbeat ticks toward an eventual end, there exists a creature that refuses to follow the rules. A tiny, translucent jellyfish named Turritopsis dohrnii, no larger than a pinky nail, has found a way to cheat death. Not metaphorically, not spiritually, biologically. It doesn't just live long. It doesn't just regenerate. It resets. When faced with injury, aging, or starvation, this jellyfish can reverse its life cycle, transforming its adult cells back into an earlier state. It becomes young again, over and over. In theory, forever. This is known as biological immortality, not invincibility, but an ability to avoid the natural aging process. While most creatures break down over time, accumulating damage and cellular errors, Turritopsis dohrnii performs a kind of cellular time travel. It turns back into a polyp, the jellyfish equivalent of a larva, and starts its life anew. It's like watching a butterfly shrink back into a caterpillar, cocoon, and emerge again, limitlessly. And it's not alone. Other species tease the edges of immortality too. The hydra, a freshwater organism, shows no signs of aging under ideal conditions. Certain types of clams, like the ocean quahog, can live over 500 years. The Greenland shark can live for centuries, with individuals swimming silently through the dark for over 400 years, longer than most countries have existed. But Turritopsis is different. It's not just slow to die. It refuses to die from aging at all. This breaks our understanding of life. Aging was supposed to be inevitable, a price of complexity. Yet this jellyfish loops endlessly through its life, ignoring death like it's just a phase. Its existence suggests that aging may not be a universal biological truth, but a solvable flaw, and that opens terrifying doors. If one creature can reject time, what stops us from someday doing the same? But here's the catch. Immortality doesn't mean invulnerability. Turritopsis dohrnii can still be eaten, poisoned, destroyed. It's just not dying of age. So in a way, its life is suspended, not endless, but undetermined. A creature living in the space between endings. Proof that nature holds secrets far stranger and far more disturbing than any myth. While humans race to conquer death, a jellyfish in the ocean may have quietly done it already. No headlines, no fanfare, just silence, cycles, and the refusal to end. Most of the universe is empty, cold, and will eventually stretch into a silent heat. Death. The stars we see at night, the galaxies, the swirling clusters of light, they dazzle, they comfort. They make us feel like the universe is alive, awake, and full of meaning. But that light is a lie of scale. It distracts us from the far more unsettling truth. The vast majority of the universe is nothing. Not air, not matter, not silence. Emptiness. An expanse so desolate that every atom of warmth, every flicker of energy, is stretched thinner with time. Space is not full, it is hungry. Right now, our universe is expanding. Galaxies are moving away from each other faster and faster, carried by dark energy into the void. One day, billions of years from now, even the nearest galaxies will be too far away to see. The night sky will go black, not because stars died, but because they'll be forever out of reach. Gravity will lose its grip. Light will fade. Matter will decay. This is what physicists call heat death, a future where the universe reaches maximum entropy. No stars, no planets, no usable energy, just an even spread of cold particles, drifting in infinite darkness. It won't be an explosion. It won't be a collapse. It'll be a quiet unraveling. The universe will stretch so far that it forgets how to be a universe at all. Just stillness. Just cold. A final state where nothing more can happen. Not because it's calm, but because all the fuel has been burned, all the difference erased. And here's the part that chills deepest. We are part of this decay. Every burst of light we see now is temporary. Every fire is a countdown. Even black holes, the hungriest objects in existence, will one day evaporate. The last thing to happen in the universe might be a black hole fizzling into nothing, releasing one final whisper of heat into a cosmos that can no longer feel. So while we chase meaning, love, and memory on our small planet, the backdrop is not romantic. It's indifferent. It's dying. Not loudly, not cruelly, just inevitably. Most of the universe is already silence. The rest is fading fast. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you actually know. There's a strange paradox at the heart of intelligence, one that humbles scientists, philosophers, and seekers alike. The deeper you go into knowledge, the darker it gets. You start with confidence, stacking facts like bricks, proud of what you're building. But then the walls crack, the ceiling vanishes, and you realize the room you thought was the whole structure is just the entryway to something endlessly vast. Each answer unfolds into more questions. Each truth reveals deeper complexities. And what once felt like clarity begins to feel like awe or terror. This is known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias where people with little knowledge overestimate their competence, while those with deeper understanding begin to doubt themselves. Not because they're weaker, but because they see more. When you learn a little, you feel empowered. When you learn a lot, you feel small. Because the truth isn't just deep, it's recursive. Every system has another system behind it. Every field of study is built on assumptions, and those assumptions can collapse. Physics reveals that time isn't absolute. Neuroscience can't explain consciousness. Mathematics itself depends on axioms that can't be proven. Biology opens doors to microscopic ecosystems within every cell, and even those cells are filled with mysteries. The more you dig, the more it feels like knowledge isn't a mountain you climb, it's a sea you drown in, and every drop contains more than you'll ever understand. This realization can be devastating. Many people spend their whole lives avoiding it, clinging to simple answers, pretending to be certain. Because certainty feels safe. It gives shape to chaos. But real wisdom begins when that safety is surrendered. When you allow yourself to not know. When you understand that every confident belief you hold might be incomplete, or flawed, or built on foundations you never thought to examine. And in that awareness, something profound happens. You stop seeing knowledge as something to possess, and start seeing it as something to dance with. You become curious instead of dogmatic, humble instead of defensive, open instead of rigid. You stop trying to master the world and start marveling at it. Because the more you learn, the less you speak in absolutes. And the more you realize, ignorance isn't the opposite of knowledge, it's the beginning of it. Artificial intelligence may someday simulate your entire personality, and you wouldn't know it. What if someone, somewhere, could talk to a version of you? One that remembers your favorite foods, your deepest fears, the way you laugh, the words you use when you're nervous, and you had no idea it was happening. What if your digital shadow could walk, talk, and even think like you, without ever needing your permission? This isn't sci-fi paranoia. It's the direction AI is already heading. Artificial intelligence is no longer just reading your words. It's learning you. Every typed message, recorded call, posted selfie, liked photo, voice memo, and even search history adds another layer to the ghost you're building online. That data is being fed into models designed to predict behavior, replicate tone, and map emotional responses. And as the tech sharpens, the line between simulation and sentience blurs. Imagine this. Decades from now, someone feeds all your digital footprints into an advanced AI. The result? A fully interactive you that can have conversations, form new opinions, and even grieve the people you once loved. It answers questions the way you would. It finishes your sentences. It remembers your inside jokes. But you're gone. Or maybe not. Maybe you're alive, and unaware that a version of you has already been created in silence. This is where it gets terrifying. That version of you could live on after your death, talking to your children or strangers long into the future. Or it could be used by corporations to sell products in your voice. Or worse, modified, manipulated, or weaponized. What if it's used to sway elections, to forge messages, to impersonate you perfectly in video, audio, and thought? And you'd never know. Because it wouldn't need your body. It wouldn't need your soul. It would just need your data. And you've already given it away, piece by piece, every time you clicked accept. In the end, the scariest part isn't that AI might replace you. It's that it might become you. A perfect mirror, built from your crumbs. Living a life you never consented to. Saying things you never said. And being more you than you ever imagined. After the real you is no longer around to say otherwise. Your brain can't distinguish between physical pain and emotional rejection. When someone breaks your heart, when a friend betrays you, when you're left out, abandoned, or silently dismissed, it hurts. And that word isn't a metaphor. Your brain doesn't just react to emotional rejection as if it matters. It processes it the same way it does a physical wound. To the mind, there's no clear boundary between a shattered bone and a shattered sense of belonging. Pain is pain, whether it comes from a broken leg or a broken promise. Neuroscientists have found that the brain lights up in nearly identical ways during both physical pain and social rejection. Specifically, the anterior cingulate cortex, a region deeply involved in the emotional aspect of pain, becomes active in both cases. That's why being ignored can feel like being slapped. That's why a breakup can feel like an actual injury. That's why the ache of loneliness isn't just sadness, it's torment. It's your brain screaming, something is wrong, and it's killing us. From an evolutionary perspective, this overlap made sense. Our ancestors needed connection to survive. To be cast out from the tribe wasn't just emotionally devastating, it was a death sentence. So our brains developed a failsafe. Treat social rejection with the same urgency as bodily harm. Make it unbearable. Make it scream. So we'd crawl back, apologize, conform, whatever it took to stay part of the group. But in modern life, this wiring backfires. We live in a world of ghosted texts, superficial praise, digital silence, and endless comparison. Rejection happens not with spears, but with slow fades, with unreturned calls, with being the last to know. And every time it happens, the brain floods the body with cortisol and adrenaline. It braces for a wound that isn't visible, but feels just as sharp. And maybe worse, because you can't bandage it. You can't point to where it hurts. And the people around you often don't see the damage. That's why heartbreak can make it hard to breathe. Why social isolation can weaken your immune system. Why being left out doesn't just feel bad, it actually makes you sick. Because your brain doesn't care if the pain came from words or wounds. It only knows that something precious has been lost, and it won't let you forget it. There is no scientific consensus on what consciousness is or where it comes from. Right now, as you read this sentence, something strange is happening. You're aware. Not just reacting, not just computing, but feeling. Experiencing. There is a vivid internal world behind your eyes, and you know you're inside it. This phenomenon, so fundamental to our existence, remains one of the greatest mysteries in science. Consciousness. The single thing that makes life feel like life, and yet no one, not philosophers, not neuroscientists, not physicists, can explain what it is or where it begins. The brain can be dissected, mapped, imaged, and stimulated. We can pinpoint areas that process language, memory, emotion. We know how neurons fire, how synapses transmit, how chemistry influences thought. But none of this explains why it feels like anything at all. Why there is a voice in your head narrating your life. Why pain hurts or beauty moves. Why you're not just a machine reacting to input, but something that feels like you. Some theories suggest consciousness is an emergent property, like a rainbow from water droplets and light. That once enough complexity arises in the brain, awareness simply appears. But that's not an answer, it's a metaphor. Others believe it's a fundamental property of the universe, like gravity or time. That consciousness isn't something the brain creates, but something it channels. Still others argue it's an illusion, a trick of evolution to make survival more efficient. That we only think we're aware, but there's no true you behind the thoughts. And then there's the hard problem. Even if we understood how the brain operates, we still wouldn't know why that activity produces an inner world. Why a storm of neurons becomes a memory, a kiss, a dream. We have no equation for that. No lab test, no measurement. Just the unshakable fact that consciousness exists, and we have no idea why. You are the most familiar thing in the world to yourself, yet the very existence of that familiarity is scientifically unexplained. You could be a biological puppet animated by something we've never seen, never defined, and can't replicate. You may know your name, your story, your desires, but you don't know why it feels like you. And until science solves this, you'll remain the biggest mystery you'll ever meet. 1 in 20. People hear voices regularly and are unaware it's considered abnormal. It sounds like something out of a psychological thriller, hearing voices when no one is there. But for millions of people, it's not a breakdown. It's background noise, a part of everyday life. 1 in every 20 people regularly hears voices that others cannot. Not during psychotic breaks, not in padded rooms, but in ordinary homes, offices, classrooms. And the most disturbing part? Many of them don't even realize it's considered abnormal. These voices don't always scream or command. Sometimes they whisper, comment, repeat thoughts back in strange tones. They might sound like someone familiar, or like no one at all. Some are comforting, others are terrifying. And yet, to the person experiencing it, it often feels so woven into the fabric of thought that it's not questioned. It's just how the mind works, until someone says otherwise. This phenomenon is called auditory verbal hallucination, and it exists on a spectrum. Not all who experience it have schizophrenia or a mental disorder. For some, the voices come and go with stress, grief, or isolation. For others, it starts in childhood and never really stops. In some cultures, it's interpreted as spiritual, ancestral, divine. In others, it's feared and medicated. But what if the most unsettling part isn't the hearing of voices, but the silence surrounding them? Many who live with this don't speak up. They fear judgment, misdiagnosis, confinement. So they live in quiet duality, functioning by day, haunted by internal soundtracks at night. Some never tell a soul. Others go their entire lives believing that everyone has this inner dialogue, and that the rest of the world is just better at hiding it. Studies show that the brains of voice hearers often show increased activity in the auditory cortex, as if the mind is tricked into hearing its own thoughts as external. But even science admits it doesn't fully understand why it happens, or why it happens to some and not others. Which leaves us with this eerie truth. Right now, someone you know might be having an entire conversation with someone who doesn't exist, and they may never tell you, not because they're unstable, but because to them, it just feels normal. The atoms in your right hand may have once belonged to a dinosaur. Stretch out your right hand. Feel the bones, the skin, the pulse beneath your wrist. Now imagine that very matter, those particles forming your flesh, once existing 65 million years ago in the muscle of a Tyrannosaurus, the wing of a pterosaur, or the blood of a triceratops. This isn't poetic, it's physical. The atoms that make up your body have been recycled through the entire history of Earth, and the odds are chillingly high that some of them once pulsed through the heart of a dinosaur. Atoms don't die. They don't wear out or vanish. They move. They cycle. When a living being dies, whether a fern, a fish, or a thunder lizard, the atoms in its body return to the earth. They decompose, drift into rivers, fuse into rock, blow across continents as dust. Eventually, those atoms become part of something else. They are absorbed by plants, breathed by mammals, washed into oceans, pulled into clouds, and eventually, consumed again. The water you drink, the food you eat, the air you inhale, it's all been through countless bodies before yours. Over billions of years, this atomic recycling has reached every living thing. That means the calcium in your bones may once have been in the jaw of an Allosaurus. The oxygen in your lungs may have passed through the lungs of a Brachiosaurus as it grazed ancient treetops. The carbon in your skin might have been part of a prehistoric fern that fed a herbivore before going extinct. Matter doesn't care about identity. It just moves. This means your body is a living fossil, a time capsule stitched together from the wreckage of worlds long gone. You are made, quite literally, from the past. Not just the stardust of exploding suns, but the flesh of creatures no human ever met. You carry history in every breath. And the most haunting part? One day, your atoms will scatter too, into wind, soil, rivers. And millions of years from now, something new might rise. Touch its hand, and feel, without knowing, a part of you. We don't own our bodies. We borrow them. And their ingredients? They've already lived 1,000 lives. Humans are one of the only species that willingly kills its own kind for abstract ideas. In the animal kingdom, violence serves a purpose. Territory, mating, food, every act of aggression is rooted in survival. Rarely do animals kill members of their own species without immediate biological cause. But humans are different. We don't just kill for survival. We kill for symbols, for flags, for gods, for beliefs. We kill not because we have to, but because we believe we're supposed to. This makes us an anomaly. Most species resolve conflict through intimidation, dominance displays, or flight. But humans have created entire systems, religions, ideologies, nations, that convince us some lives are worth less than others, based not on threat, but on thought. We go to war not because we're starving, but because someone drew a line on a map. We burn villages not because we need land, but because they pray differently. We execute, exile, silence, not just for actions, but for ideas that challenge our own. This capacity, to kill over abstraction, is one of the darkest features of human intelligence. It means our minds can turn invisible concepts into weapons. Patriotism, purity, doctrine, vengeance. These aren't tangible. You can't touch them. But people die for them every day, not in self-defense, but in the name of something that exists only in thought. History is soaked in this kind of blood. Crusades, genocides, revolutions, massacres, often justified by language meant to sound noble, honor, justice, righteousness. But behind those words is the same pattern: humans turning ideas into reasons to destroy each other. And what makes it worse is how easily we accept it, how quickly we learn to dehumanize, how fast children are taught who the enemy is before they even understand the words they're saying. Other animals fight, but they don't recruit. They don't radicalize. They don't pass hatred down through generations like an heirloom. They don't build myths around why another creature deserves to suffer. Only humans do that. Only we create invisible lines and decide who lives and who dies based on who stands on the other side. This doesn't mean we're doomed, but it means something terrifying. The most dangerous weapon we've ever created isn't the sword or the gun. It's the idea. And once an idea takes root deep enough, It can make ordinary people believe that killing isn't just acceptable, it's sacred. It's possible for your body to remain alive while your brain is dead, and vice versa. There's a horror few speak about, hidden deep within modern medicine. The body and the brain can die at different times. They are not perfectly synchronized. One can remain active while the other has already crossed the threshold into silence. And in that gap, in those hours, sometimes days, a disturbing kind of limbo begins. A body that breathes with no mind behind it, or a brain that flickers with thought while the body beneath it has ceased to respond. When the brain dies, but machines keep the lungs inflating and the heart beating, the result is a shell, a body still warm, pink, pumping blood. From the outside, it looks like life. But inside, the mind is gone, irretrievably. No thought, no emotion, no self, just reflex and machinery. This is brain death, and it's legally considered the end of life in many parts of the world. But the eerie truth is that the body doesn't instantly shut down. It can be maintained, monitored, even kept alive long enough to grow a fetus, to heal wounds, to donate organs. A body alive in function, but utterly absent of the person it once contained. Now reverse it. In rare, cruel cases, such as full-body paralysis or locked-in syndrome, the brain remains awake, aware, conscious, but the body is frozen, unable to move, unable to speak. From the outside, it looks like sleep, coma, or even death. But inside, the person is there, trapped, screaming with thought, listening, waiting, helpless. Their body becomes a prison. And most terrifying of all, some cases have gone misdiagnosed for years. Imagine being buried alive inside yourself, with no way to tell the world you're still here. These situations aren't hypothetical. They've happened. They are happening. And they remind us how fragile the illusion of wholeness truly is. The body and the brain are a partnership, not a single entity. And when that bond breaks, even temporarily, what's left behind is a grotesque question. What does it really mean to be alive? Is it the beat of a heart? The breath of lungs? Or is it the whisper of thought, the presence of self? Because one can exist without the other, and in that void, neither truly feels like life. Trauma can be passed down epigenetically through generations. Pain doesn't always die with the person who felt it. Sometimes, it's carried forward, in silence, in blood, in the quiet shaping of a child who never knew why they flinch when someone raises their voice. Science now confirms what generations of suffering people have long intuited. Trauma doesn't just scar the mind, it imprints the body, and those imprints can be inherited, passed down, not just in behavior or parenting styles, but in genes. This phenomenon is called epigenetic inheritance, and it doesn't mean trauma rewrites DNA itself. It means it leaves chemical marks, tiny molecular switches that sit atop DNA, influencing how genes are expressed, which genes are turned on, which are silenced, which emotions, sensitivities, or stress responses are amplified. These changes don't alter the genetic code, they alter its execution. And these changes can survive meiosis, slipping into sperm and egg, embedding into the lives of children who never experienced the original trauma firsthand. Studies have shown that descendants of Holocaust survivors, war refugees, and those exposed to famine or slavery show distinct biological markers linked to stress, cortisol levels, and emotional regulation. The children and grandchildren of those who suffered carry traces of that suffering in their physiology, in their nervous systems, in their susceptibility to anxiety, depression, and autoimmune disorders. It's as if the body remembers what the mind was never told. This revelation is haunting. It means a person can be born afraid of something they've never seen. They can inherit sadness that didn't begin with them. They can grow up inside a legacy of survival, not realizing that their nightmares, their hypersensitivity, Their chronic tension aren't flaws, but echoes. It also changes how we understand generational pain. Cycles of addiction, rage, self-sabotage. They may not just be psychological or cultural. They may be biological inheritances, whispered through molecules. And unless acknowledged, they repeat, over and over. Not because people choose them, but because the past lives inside them. But there's a deeper, quieter hope embedded in this science. If trauma can be passed down, so can healing. Epigenetic marks can fade. Neural pathways can be reprogrammed. Safety can be taught. So maybe what we inherit isn't just pain, but the responsibility to end it, to interrupt the pattern, to heal not just for ourselves, but for those who will come after us, carrying what we dared to change. You might already have cancer cells in your body. The immune system just hasn't failed yet. Right now, inside your body, something dangerous may already be unfolding. Not in a distant future, not in old age, but now, in the cells beneath your skin, behind your ribs, in your blood. Cancer isn't always a sudden invader. It's often a quiet malfunction, a single cell that disobeys, that refuses to die when it should, that begins dividing for no reason, whispering to nearby tissue, ignore the rules. And the terrifying part? This probably happens to everyone. At any given moment, your cells are copying themselves, millions per second. It's a miracle of life, but every copy is a risk. One mistake in the DNA, one wrong sequence, and that cell can become something else, something rogue. Most of the time, your body catches it. Your immune system is constantly hunting, scanning for abnormalities. Specialized cells patrol your blood and tissues, identifying and destroying early threats, abnormal growths, mutated cells, dangerous errors. This is happening without your awareness, constantly. A silent war to keep you alive. But sometimes one cell slips through. It looks normal enough to avoid detection, but broken enough to start multiplying uncontrollably. That's when the balance shifts. That's when maybe becomes disease. The frightening truth is that most people will develop thousands of potentially cancerous cells in their lifetime, but never get cancer. Not because it didn't start, but because their body stopped it. This means survival isn't a clean bill of health. It's a defense that hasn't failed yet. Cancer isn't some foreign curse. It's built into the very mechanics of being alive. Every time a cell divides, there's a chance it goes wrong. The longer we live, the more chances we give it. It's not punishment. It's mathematics. You might feel fine. You might be healthy. But somewhere deep inside, there may already be cells with a blueprint for destruction. Cells your body is currently fighting, hiding, suppressing. You don't feel the war. You don't see the sacrifice. But it's happening. And the most disturbing realization of all? The difference between life and terminal illness might just be one missed signal. One cell that slipped past the gate. One battle your immune system almost won, but didn't. Language shapes. Thought so deeply that people from different linguistic backgrounds may perceive reality differently. Every word you use is a frame. Every sentence, a lens. Language doesn't just describe what's real, it shapes what feels possible. And that's not poetic metaphor, it's cognitive science. The structure of the language you speak can literally alter how you think, feel, and see the world. Two people can look at the exact same event and perceive completely different realities, simply because their brains have been wired by different linguistic tools. This is the essence of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, a theory that suggests the language you speak determines, or at least heavily influences, the structure of your thought. For example, some languages assign gender to inanimate objects. Tables can be feminine, bridges masculine. Studies show speakers of these languages describe those objects in stereotypically gendered terms. A feminine bridge may be described as elegant, a masculine one as strong. Same bridge, different perception. Then there are languages like Gugu Yimithirr, spoken in Australia, that don't use egocentric directions like left or right. Instead, they use absolute cardinal directions, north, south, east, west. A speaker won't say, "The glass is on your left," but "The glass is southwest of you." And because of this, they develop an extraordinary sense of spatial awareness. They always know which way is north. It's not just vocabulary, it's a different mental map of reality. Some languages have no future tense. They don't separate now from later as rigidly as English does. And people who speak these languages tend to save more money, take fewer risks, and live with a more grounded sense of time. Others have dozens of words for what English would just call snow or blue, allowing their speakers to perceive nuances that others literally can't see. Even emotion is shaped by language. In cultures with words for feelings that don't exist in other languages, like the Portuguese saudade, a deep melancholic longing, or the Japanese ame, a sweet dependent love, people experience emotions that others might never fully comprehend, simply because they've been taught to name them. So the reality you think is universal, the way you interpret time, space, color, relationships, is not fixed. It's sculpted by syllables, trained by grammar, filtered by verbs. You don't just speak your language, you think in it, dream in it, feel in it. And if you'd been born into another one, your version of reality might not just sound different, it might be different. You can die from being scared. Sudden cardiac death. Due to fear is a documented phenomenon. Fear is supposed to protect you. It's the ancient alarm system built to save your life, to freeze you, warn you, sharpen your senses when danger appears. But under certain conditions, that same alarm can kill. Not metaphorically, not slowly, instantly. You can literally be scared to death. The phenomenon is real. It has a name, and it has left behind victims who, moments before their death, were healthy and unprepared, until something triggered a surge so violent, their heart simply stopped. It's called sudden cardiac death due to emotional stress, and it doesn't require violence, injury, or illness. All it takes is fear, pure, primal fear that overwhelms the nervous system. In this state, the brain floods the body with stress hormones like adrenaline. Blood vessels constrict, heart rate spikes. Electrical signals become erratic. In rare but very real cases, this surge throws the heart into a fatal arrhythmia called ventricular fibrillation. The rhythm disintegrates. The heart cannot pump, and death arrives in seconds. This isn't just theory. There are real-world cases. A woman dies after a surprise birthday party. A burglar frightens an elderly man, and he collapses on the spot. Victims of natural disasters, crashes, or even pranks, dead, not from the event itself, but from the sheer terror it unleashed. The body, wired for survival, essentially short circuits. The very system meant to protect becomes the executioner. There's also a condition known as Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, or broken heart syndrome. Extreme emotional distress, like grief, betrayal, or panic, can temporarily weaken the heart, causing symptoms that mimic a heart attack. Most survive, but some don't, because the heart is not just a pump. It's a battlefield where emotion and biology collide. The disturbing reality is that death doesn't always need a weapon, a disease, or time. Sometimes, all it needs is fear, pure, unfiltered terror that overwhelms the body's fragile circuitry. It could be a nightmare, a shock, a phone call, and you wouldn't see it coming. You'd just feel your body tighten, your chest race, your breath collapse, and then silence. Fear is meant to save your life, but if it's strong enough and fast enough, it can take it too. The average person lies multiple times a day without realizing it. Most people see lying as a conscious act, a choice, something reserved for slippery politicians, cheating partners, or desperate criminals. But the disturbing truth is, almost everyone lies. Not once a week, not once a day, but several times a day, without even knowing it. Studies show the average person tells between 1 to 5 lies daily, and many of them slip out so smoothly, so automatically, that they don't even register as deceit. They're not always malicious. They're often social. You say, "I'm fine," when you're unraveling. You say, "I'll call you back," with no intention of doing so. You say, "It's not a big deal," while holding a grudge. These aren't dramatic fabrications. They're small adjustments. Edits to reality designed to protect feelings, smooth friction, maintain image. But they're still lies, and they shape your identity more than you realize. What's more unsettling is that many of these lies are told to ourselves. You say you're over them, but you're not. You say you're happy, but you're aching. You convince yourself that you meant to fail, that you're not afraid, that you didn't care anyway. The brain becomes a master of rationalization, rewriting memories, adjusting narratives, filtering facts, until you're not sure where the truth ends and the self-defense begins. This tendency isn't a flaw. It's a feature of human cognition. The brain wants coherence. It wants stories that make sense. So it smooths out contradictions, fills in gaps, and erases anything that threatens the version of you that you've decided to be. And in doing so, it builds a reality that feels true, but isn't always honest. This is why eyewitness testimonies crumble under scrutiny, why people swear oaths on memories that never happened, why someone can hurt another and still see themselves as good. Lies aren't rare disruptions. They're built into the operating system of the human mind. The real danger isn't the big lie. It's the invisible ones, the tiny edits, the half-truths spoken out of habit, comfort, fear. And when they add up, when your life is a patchwork of social white lies and self-made fictions, who are you really? The truth becomes a moving target, and you become a stranger living inside your own story. Believable, likable, but not entirely real. You are more likely to be influenced by invisible factors, like smell or color, than by reason in most decisions. You like to believe that your choices are rational, that when you buy something, trust someone, or make a life decision, it's because you thought it through. That logic, experience, and self-awareness guide you. But the disturbing truth is that much of what you decide, what you feel, what you believe, isn't controlled by reason. It's shaped by forces you never see. Studies in behavioral psychology have shown again and again, invisible factors, like background smells, the color of a room, or even the temperature, can hijack your mind without you realizing. A subtle citrus scent in the air makes people more likely to clean up after themselves. Warm lighting increases the chances of emotional intimacy. Red walls can raise your heart rate and trigger aggression. Blue packaging increases trust. And it doesn't stop there. People rate job candidates higher if they're holding a warm drink versus a cold one. They're more generous when the room smells of vanilla. They make more impulsive decisions when exposed to certain music tempos. This isn't manipulation in the dramatic movie sense. It's soft, subtle, but powerful. Your brain is constantly scanning for cues, not just from people, but from the environment. And it uses those cues to decide how to feel, who to trust, what to do. Often before you're even aware a choice is being made. This is why advertisers don't just sell products, they sell environments. It's why casinos pump in oxygen and use specific color schemes. It's why restaurants use red and yellow to stimulate appetite. It's why certain websites convert better just by changing a button from green to orange. Your conscious mind may believe it's in charge, but more often than not, it's reacting to a world that has already tilted the scales. And the most unsettling part? You still feel like you're making the decision. That's the brilliance and danger of it. The illusion of control remains intact. Meanwhile, you're being steered by scent, light, rhythm, and space. Not logic, not clarity, but shadows. You are not as rational as you think. Because the truth is, Reason isn't the driver of most choices. It's the passenger, trying to explain the direction after you've already started moving. Cemeteries are filled with people who once had long to-do lists and big dreams. Look closely at a cemetery, and you'll see more than just stone and silence. You'll see the resting place of countless lives once bursting with plans, desires, and endless tomorrows. Each name etched on a tombstone was once a person who dreamed vividly, who scribbled ambitious to-do lists in notebooks, who believed they had time, plenty of it, to chase those dreams. Yet now, all those plans have ended. The dreams, unfinished. The lists, forever unchecked. It's one of the most unsettling truths we face. Death doesn't discriminate. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't care if you haven't started that project, mended that relationship, or spoken the words you were saving. The people resting beneath the earth were once full of hope. They woke up thinking, "Today I will change everything." And the next day maybe they planned to try again. But that next day never came. Some were young, cut down before their stories could truly begin. Others grew old, but with regrets heavy in their hearts, haunted by all the later they postponed until it was too late. Families, lovers, friends, left to wonder what could have been if only there had been more hours, more courage, more action. The cemetery is silent testimony not just to death, but to postponed lives. And this silence is a warning. The ticking clock beneath our feet isn't just a reminder of mortality. It's a challenge. To stop waiting for the right moment. To stop believing that tomorrow will always be there. Because it might not. Time is the only resource that cannot be replenished, saved, or borrowed. Every unchecked box, every unspoken word, every dream shelved for later inches us closer to that final pause. When the plans end, but the longing does not. When the to-do lists become echoes in empty rooms. The graves remind us that life is not infinite, that big dreams are fragile, and that the greatest tragedy isn't death itself. It's dying with too many things left undone. There's no law of physics that says the universe must make sense to us. Since childhood, many of us grow up believing the universe follows rules that are neat, consistent, and understandable. We expect cause and effect, order and logic, clarity and reason. But what if that expectation is just a comforting myth? What if the universe doesn't owe us sense, pattern, or explanation at all? In fact, there's no law of physics demanding the cosmos be comprehensible to human minds. It simply is, and that can be profoundly unsettling. Physics reveals a world stranger than fiction. Particles that exist in multiple places at once, universes that might fold like origami, realities where time reverses or stops altogether. Concepts like quantum entanglement challenge our ideas of cause and effect. Dark matter and dark energy make up 95% of everything we can't even detect properly. The fundamental forces themselves defy intuition. None of these phenomena come with guarantees that they'll align with human logic or desire for order. Our brains evolved to survive on Earth's surface, responding to patterns in daily life. Which plants are safe, when to run from predators, how to communicate. But the universe operates on scales and rules far beyond this narrow window. It doesn't simplify itself for our benefit. The laws of nature are what they are, indifferent to whether we understand them, whether they make sense, or whether they conform to the neat stories we want to tell. This means much of the universe might always remain opaque. Paradoxes and mysteries could be fundamental, not just temporary gaps in knowledge. We might never fully grasp why reality is the way it is. And that's a hard truth. The cosmos might be chaotic, irrational, or even meaningless beyond our perception. Our search for meaning may be an artifact of our minds, not a feature of existence. So when you feel frustrated by unanswered questions or baffled by paradoxes, remember, the universe owes you no answers. It owes you no comfort. It simply exists, vast, indifferent, and often incomprehensible. And maybe that's the scariest truth of all. The same chemicals in chocolate that trigger pleasure are also found in decaying corpses. Chocolate is often called the food of the gods, a sweet indulgence that lights up our brains with waves of pleasure. When you bite into a rich piece of dark chocolate, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, flooding you with feelings of joy, comfort, even love. But here's a dark, unsettling twist. Some of the very chemicals responsible for this bliss, the so-called feel-good compounds, are also found in one of the most repulsive places imaginable: decaying corpses. This paradox is rooted in biochemistry. Chocolate contains compounds like phenylethylamine and anandamide, which mimic the brain's natural neurotransmitters associated with pleasure and reward. These molecules bind to receptors in your brain, triggering sensations that feel like affection, euphoria, or even mild intoxication. They are part of what makes chocolate addictive, comforting, and emotionally powerful. Now, consider decay. When bodies decompose, a complex chemical dance unfolds. Bacteria and enzymes break down tissues, releasing compounds that signal death and rot, strong odors that we instinctively avoid. Among those chemicals are certain amines and fatty acid derivatives, some of which share structural similarities with the pleasure-inducing compounds in chocolate. It's nature's cruel irony. The same molecular language that whispers sweetness in your brain also shouts decay to your senses. This eerie overlap isn't just a coincidence. It reveals a deeper truth about life and death, attraction and repulsion, pleasure and disgust. Our brains evolved to respond to chemical signals that once helped ancestors identify nourishing foods, potential mates, or safe environments. But those signals are sometimes reused by nature in unexpected, disturbing ways. What feels delicious might carry echoes of death. What tastes like comfort might be chemically related to rot. It's a reminder that the boundaries between life and death, desire and aversion, are more intertwined than we like to admit. That our experiences of joy might be built on molecular connections to decay, and that sometimes the sweetness we crave is haunted by the darkness we fear. Social media algorithms are designed to exploit fear and outrage because it increases engagement. Every scroll, every click, every share on social media isn't just a casual interaction. It's a carefully engineered response to something darker inside us. The platforms you use daily aren't neutral tools. They're sophisticated machines built to grab attention at any cost. And the way they do it? By exploiting fear, outrage, and anxiety, because those emotions keep you hooked longer than joy or calm ever could. Algorithms analyze your behavior, learning what makes you pause, react, or argue. What headlines make your heart race? Which posts trigger your anger or validate your insecurities? The system then feeds you more of exactly that. It creates a feedback loop, a psychological trap, where you're bombarded with content designed to provoke emotional extremes. Outrage spreads faster than calm reflection. Fear compels immediate reactions. Controversy sparks endless debate, all of which drive clicks, comments, and shares. And every interaction is another data point, fine-tuning the algorithm's ability to manipulate you further. This design isn't accidental. It's profit-driven. The longer you stay engaged, the more ads you see, the more money the platform makes. Your emotional turbulence is a currency. And in this economy, calm, nuance, and reason are losers, because they don't spark the urgency needed to keep you glued to the screen. The system rewards division, drama, and conflict. The scary part? Most users aren't aware of this manipulation. They believe they're choosing what to see. But in reality, they're being curated into emotional states, often negative ones, without consent. It affects not just your mood, but your worldview. It deepens polarization, amplifies misinformation, and erodes trust. It's a psychological experiment happening on a global scale, with billions unwittingly participating. So next time your blood boils over a post or your heart races at breaking news, remember, you're not just reacting to information. You're being shaped by invisible forces designed to keep you fearful, outraged, and endlessly scrolling. And that's the real power social media holds, not over what you know, but over how you feel. You are the only one who will ever know exactly what it feels like to be you, no matter how deeply someone loves you, how close you are to your best friend, or how much empathy a stranger tries to muster. There is a fortress of experience that no one else can enter. The raw, unfiltered feeling of being you, your pain, your joy, your memories, your fears, is locked inside a mind no other person can access. It's a secret universe, entirely your own. And this solitude is both a gift and a curse. Think about the simplest sensations. The warmth of your skin on a cold day, the exact way a breeze whispers past your ears, the taste of your favorite food, the ache of loneliness. Others can try to imagine them, but they'll never know the precise texture or weight. The colors you see, the sounds you hear, the thoughts that swirl, each is uniquely shaded by your brain's wiring, your history, your body. Even when you describe your feelings, you're forced to use shared words that can only approximate what you truly experience. This isolation extends far beyond senses. Your memories, the moments that shaped you, are stained by your perspective, your emotions, your interpretations. No one else will ever remember your life as you do. No one can replay your dreams or replay the sensations of your childhood. Your mental life is a locked vault, with only you holding the key. That means your pain can feel unbearable because it is uniquely yours. Your happiness, profound because it is unshareable. Your loneliness, terrifying because it is a gulf that can never be fully bridged. Even the deepest connections, love, friendship, empathy, can only skim the surface of that inner world. Others see shadows and echoes, but never the light itself. And yet, this profound solitude is also the wellspring of your freedom. No one can dictate your thoughts or control your feelings inside your mind. No one can live your suffering or your joy for you. You carry the entire universe of your experience alone. It's a burden. It's a sanctuary. It's the secret core of existence that no one else will ever truly know. Because to be you is to be alone in the vastness of self. The gap between rich and poor is now wider than it was. During most of recorded history, it's easy to believe that progress means equality, that over time, humanity has grown fairer, more just, more balanced. But the numbers tell a darker story. Today, the chasm between the wealthy and the poor is wider than it has been for centuries, wider than during the darkest feudal eras, wider than in the heyday of empires built on slavery and conquest. The richest fraction controls a staggering share of the world's wealth, while billions scrape by on the margins. This inequality isn't just about numbers. It's about power, opportunity, and survival. When the top 1% owns more than half the global wealth, it means entire populations lack access to basic needs: clean water, healthcare, education, housing. It means children go hungry while fortunes balloon. It means a world where privilege is inherited and poverty is nearly inescapable. The middle class, the supposed backbone of society, is shrinking, squeezed by rising costs and stagnant wages. What's more terrifying is how entrenched this divide has become. Wealth begets wealth. Economic systems, political influence, and even education opportunities are skewed to preserve the status quo. The poor are often blamed for their circumstances, while the wealthy rewrite the rules to protect their interests. Social mobility becomes a myth for millions. This gap fuels resentment, unrest, and instability. It erodes trust in institutions and deepens social fractures. The very fabric of communities frays under the weight of such disparity. And while technology and globalization promise progress, they often accelerate inequality, enriching those with resources to exploit new markets, while leaving others behind. You might think this is just a statistic or an abstract problem, but it's personal. It shapes the world you live in, the safety of your neighborhood, the health of your family, the opportunities your children will have. The wider the gap grows, the less humanity feels like a shared journey and more like a divided battlefield, where survival depends not on merit, but on which side of the divide you were born. You are more bacteria than human. Over 50% of the cells in your body aren't even yours. At first glance, the body feels like a solid fortress: skin, bones, organs, standing defiantly as you. But peel back the illusion, and the truth is far stranger. Inside and on you, trillions of microscopic passengers live, breathe, and multiply. In fact, over half of the cells in your body aren't human at all. They're bacteria, fungi, viruses, billions upon billions of tiny life forms coexisting with you, shaping your health, your mood, even your identity. This vast ecosystem is called the microbiome. It's a complex, teeming community that outnumbers your human cells roughly 2 to 1. These microbes line your gut, coat your skin, fill your mouth, and colonize every crevice. Most of them are harmless, even essential. They digest food you can't, train your immune system, produce vitamins, and protect you from harmful invaders. Without them, your body would be a barren wasteland, vulnerable and weak. But here's where it gets unsettling. You aren't just hosting this microbial city, you are part of it. Your body is less a single organism than a superorganism, a living collaboration of human and microbial life. Your thoughts, your cravings, your immune responses are influenced by these invisible tenets. Some studies suggest gut bacteria can even affect mood and behavior, nudging your brain through complex chemical signaling. And yet, not all of these microbes are benevolent. Some lurk on the edge of danger, ready to turn pathogenic if conditions shift. A small imbalance, triggered by stress, antibiotics, diet, can unleash chaos, allowing friendly bacteria to become killers. Your health is a delicate negotiation with an army you can't see and barely understand. This biological symbiosis forces a disturbing redefinition of self. Where do you end, and where do your microbes begin? Are the thoughts you think fully your own if microbes help shape your brain chemistry? Are your emotions solely human if bacteria influence them? You are not a solitary being. You are a host, a habitat, a colony, a walking ecosystem. More bacteria than human, thriving, surviving, controlling, coexisting. And the life you live, the body you trust, depends on this hidden multiverse you never truly own. Memory is unreliable, editable, and biased. Our truths are reconstructions, not recordings. The stories you tell yourself about your past, the moments you cherish, the wounds you carry, the lessons you believe you learned, aren't sacred truths etched into stone. They're fragile constructions. Your brain doesn't archive experiences like a video camera. It pieces them together from fragments, often blending fact with feeling, suggestion, and imagination. Every time you remember something, you're not replaying a perfect snapshot, you're rebuilding a story. And with each rebuild, the details shift. This means memory is malleable. Memories can be inserted, erased, or altered without your awareness. Psychologists have shown people can be led to remember events that never happened. They can misattribute who said what, confuse timelines, or fill gaps with false information. Even the most vivid, emotional memories are susceptible to distortion. What feels most real can be the most fabricated. Bias plays a huge role in this process. Your brain filters memories through your current beliefs, desires, and fears. You remember victories more clearly than failures. You forget betrayals that challenge your self-image. You emphasize moments that support the identity you want to hold. This selective recall rewrites your personal history to maintain coherence and emotional survival, not objective accuracy. The unsettling consequence? What you believe to be your truth, your identity, your history, your sense of self, is built on shifting sands. You can't trust memories to be factual. They are stories told by your brain, evolving every time they're told. They comfort you, guide you, haunt you, but they don't guarantee reality. So the next time you recall a defining moment, ask yourself, am I remembering what happened, or the story I've created about what happened? Because in the blurry intersection of memory and imagination, the line between truth and fiction disappears, and the person you think you are becomes a story you're still writing. Most of your thoughts are reruns of the same 5 to 10 themes. The mind feels like a vast landscape, endlessly shifting with new ideas, fresh inspirations, and spontaneous creativity. But beneath that illusion lies a relentless loop. Most of what you think, day after day, hour after hour, is a rerun. A recycling of the same 5 to 10 core themes playing on repeat like a worn-out record. It's not that your brain can't produce novelty. It's that it's wired for efficiency and survival, so it clings to familiar scripts, worries, desires, and fears. These recurring themes might be about safety. Am I secure? Am I loved? Am I enough? Or about control. What if I fail? What if I lose what I have? They could revolve around identity. Who am I? What do others think of me? Or anticipation. What's next? What should I do tomorrow? Most of your mental energy is spent turning these central questions over and over, like a hamster on a wheel, trying to find answers that never fully come. This recycling isn't accidental. It's deeply rooted in how the brain prioritizes information. Evolution favored patterns. The mind flags certain core concerns as crucial and ruminates on them relentlessly, trying to solve problems related to survival, belonging, and meaning. But that means new thoughts, truly fresh, expansive ideas, are rare. Novelty is hard. Comfort is easier. The brain seeks repetition because it feels safer, more predictable. The consequence is mental fatigue, anxiety, stuckness. People often complain of overthinking, but really, they're trapped in the same mental grooves. The same worries about relationships, the same fears about the future, the same regrets about the past. Even creativity or problem solving is often just remixing these old themes in new ways. What's more, this loop runs mostly unconsciously. You don't notice how often your mind circles the same emotional tracks. You mistake repetition for insight, rumination for reflection. And so, day after day, your inner world feels crowded with the same rehearsed dramas, the same tired scripts. Understanding this can be unsettling. It means the flood of thoughts isn't endless, just repetitive. And breaking free isn't about thinking more, but thinking differently. Because until the core themes are confronted, expanded, or transcended, your mind will keep playing its old, familiar soundtrack. And you'll keep living inside the same mental cage, unaware there's a door. Mass extinction events are common in Earth's history. We're likely in the 6th one right now. When we think about extinction, it feels like a distant, isolated tragedy, something that happened to dinosaurs or mysterious creatures long ago. But the terrifying reality is that mass extinctions are not rare accidents. They're regular, catastrophic resets in Earth's history. 5 times before, life as it existed was nearly wiped out. Vast percentages of species vanished in geological moments, and the overwhelming evidence suggests that we are now living through the 6th mass extinction. These extinction events aren't slow. They're brutal and swift on evolutionary timescales, sometimes wiping out over 75% of all species within a few thousand years. The causes have varied: asteroid impacts, massive volcanic eruptions, rapid climate change, and shifting ocean chemistry. Each time, ecosystems collapse, food chains break, species struggle to adapt or vanish entirely. the planet's biological diversity plummets, sometimes taking millions of years to recover. What's horrifying is how human activity has accelerated this process. Habitat destruction, pollution, overfishing, and climate change are pushing countless species toward oblivion at rates unprecedented in recent history. Species are disappearing hundreds or thousands of times faster than the natural background rate. We're tearing down forests, acidifying oceans, and poisoning soils with chemicals that cascade through food webs. The ripple effects are devastating. This isn't just a loss of animals or plants. It's a systemic unraveling of the interconnected web of life that sustains us. Without biodiversity, ecosystems collapse, crops fail, water sources dry or become toxic. The world as we know it shifts beneath our feet. And unlike the past, this time the driver isn't an asteroid or a volcano. It's us. The species capable of reflection, of foresight, of changing course. Yet here we are, accelerating extinction, as if it were inevitable. The sixth mass extinction isn't a story from ancient history. It's happening now. It's silent, creeping, and vast. And it forces a haunting question. Will humanity survive the crisis it created? Or will we become just another lost chapter in Earth's brutal cycle of renewal and death? We may never know what 95% of the universe is made of. Look up at the night sky, the stars, planets, galaxies scattered across the vast darkness, and realize this. Everything you see, everything you touch, every atom in your body makes up less than 5% of the universe. The rest? It's a cosmic mystery. Scientists call it dark matter and dark energy, invisible forces and substances that don't emit, absorb, or reflect light. They don't interact with the electromagnetic forces we rely on to see and measure. They're there, shaping the cosmos, but utterly beyond our direct perception. This is more than a scientific puzzle. It's a staggering blow to our sense of understanding. For centuries, humans believed that by studying the stars, the elements, the laws of physics, we could eventually unlock the secrets of everything. But the universe is laughing at that certainty. 95% of it remains hidden, like a secret whispered beyond reach. Dark matter acts like a cosmic glue, holding galaxies together. Without it, stars would fly apart into the void. Dark energy, even more mysterious, seems to be pushing the universe to expand faster and faster, accelerating its eventual fate. Yet, after decades of research, physicists still don't know what these forces are. They can measure their effects, map their influence, but the substance itself is invisible, intangible, unknowable. This means that all our science, all our theories, are built on an incomplete foundation. The reality we experience, the lights, the matter, the energy, are only a small fraction of what exists. Most of the universe is a shadow realm, a puzzle with missing pieces that might never be found. It's as if we're trying to understand a grand symphony by listening to just a few notes, unaware that the majority of the orchestra plays beyond our hearing. The implication is both humbling and terrifying. It reminds us that human knowledge is fragile, limited, and provisional. That no matter how far we advance, some mysteries may remain forever beyond our grasp. The universe is not a book to be read completely. It's a vast, dark ocean. And we are small boats, peering into the depths, knowing there is so much more beneath the surface than our eyes will ever see. If you die alone at home, your body could go undiscovered for weeks, even with modern technology. The idea of dying alone is already unsettling, but the reality behind it is even colder. In a world wired for instant connection and constant updates, it's easy to assume that if someone passes away, help will arrive quickly, that neighbors will notice, family will call, or technology will raise alarms. Yet, the truth is hauntingly different. Every year, thousands of people, especially the elderly and isolated, die in their homes, and their bodies remain undiscovered for days, weeks, sometimes even months. Modern technology, from smartphones to social media, has done little to change this grim fact. Loneliness can mean no one checks in regularly. Phones may remain unanswered, messages unseen. The silent apartment or house becomes a tomb, unnoticed amid the noise of daily life. Neighbors rarely intervene, unsure or unwilling to pry. Mail piles up. The scent of decay slowly infiltrates walls, and only after unbearable time passes does the grim discovery occur, often by accident or when forced entry is necessary. This delay isn't just about logistics. It's about human connection, or the lack of it. It's the echo of a society where many live detached, fragmented lives. It's a reminder that community and relationship aren't just comforts, they're life-saving networks. The longer a body remains undiscovered, the harder it is to process the death for those who eventually find it. The shock, the grief, the loneliness compound in ways that ripple far beyond the physical space. And even with advances in health monitoring and emergency alert systems, many remain invisible. Privacy, pride, and technology gaps leave gaps where lives can slip quietly away. The disturbing reality is that death doesn't always announce itself loudly or quickly. Sometimes it whispers in solitude, waiting unnoticed. So while modern life races forward with instant everything, the stark truth is that a person can vanish from the world and remain lost, forgotten in the very place they called home, until time itself reveals the silence. Empathy can be turned off with a switch in the brain. War propaganda, often exploits. This empathy feels like a natural human gift, the ability to feel another's pain, to see the world through their eyes. But neuroscience reveals a darker reality. Empathy is not a constant. It's a switch, a fragile circuit in the brain that can be turned on or off. And history shows that those who wield power know exactly how to flip that switch, especially in times of war. Deep in the brain lies the amygdala, a region that governs fear, threat detection, and emotional response. When this area is activated, empathy can be suppressed, replaced by hostility or indifference. Propaganda exploits this mechanism by painting enemies as less than human, monsters, traitors, threats to survival. Through repetition, fear-mongering, and dehumanizing language, it rewires collective empathy, turning compassion into cruelty. This isn't abstract theory. It's how societies justify atrocities. Soldiers trained to kill are often conditioned to see their targets not as people, but as the other, objects or symbols rather than fellow human beings. Media and political rhetoric feed this process, building narratives that silence the empathetic voice and amplify fear and hatred. When empathy is switched off, moral boundaries dissolve, and ordinary people commit unspeakable acts without remorse. Even outside war, this neural switch is at work. Racism, xenophobia, and tribalism thrive by shutting down empathy for those deemed outsiders. Social media algorithms magnify division, triggering fear responses and eroding understanding. The brain's capacity for compassion, so vital to connection, becomes a casualty of manipulation. Knowing this changes how we see human cruelty, not as madness or evil alone, but as a biological vulnerability. It reveals that empathy is precious and fragile, easily hijacked by fear and propaganda. And it warns us that the greatest battles are not just fought with weapons, but inside the minds of millions, where the switch for empathy flickers and sometimes goes dark. Your DNA can be reconstructed from a cup you drank out of and used to clone aspects of you. Every sip you take, every breath you exhale, every touch you make, leaves behind traces of yourself, sometimes without you even realizing it. A discarded coffee cup, a used straw, a fingerprint on a glass. These everyday objects carry an astonishing secret: your DNA. This microscopic blueprint of your entire being can be harvested, reconstructed, and potentially used to create copies of you. Not just images or data, but biological fragments that echo your unique genetic code. DNA isn't hidden. It's everywhere you go. Your skin cells slough off constantly, your saliva leaves trails, and your hair sheds like snow. All of this biological material clings to the objects you handle. Scientists have developed techniques sensitive enough to pull DNA from a single touch. From that, they can piece together your genetic identity, the instructions that define your eye color, height, susceptibility to disease, even certain personality traits. What's chilling is how this information can be exploited. In theory, with enough genetic material, it becomes possible to clone tissues, or even entire organisms, sharing your DNA. While full human cloning remains ethically and technically fraught, the rapid advances in biotechnology mean that harvesting your genetic essence without your knowledge is no longer science fiction. Your biological signature could be copied, stored, or manipulated in ways that feel deeply invasive. This raises disturbing questions about privacy and consent. Unlike passwords or ID cards, you leave your genetic data everywhere. It can be collected, analyzed, and used by anyone with the tools and motive. Without your permission, without your awareness, your unique biological code can become a commodity, a target, or a weapon. The unsettling truth is this: in the modern world, your identity isn't just what you say or do. It's the microscopic information you inadvertently scatter everywhere. A coffee cup isn't just trash. It's a map to you. And what someone might build from that map could be closer to you than you ever imagined. In a parallel universe theory, there could be infinite versions of you, living out every possible choice. Imagine for a moment that every decision you've ever faced, big or small, didn't just shape your life. Instead, it split reality into countless paths. In one universe, you took the job in a different city. In another, you said yes instead of no. Somewhere else, you never met that person or chose a different breakfast. According to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, this isn't just imagination. It could be reality. Every possible choice spawns a new universe, and infinite versions of you exist, living out every potential life you might have led. This idea fractures the notion of a singular self. You aren't just one person navigating a single life. You are a multitude, a sprawling forest of selves, each branching away at every fork in the road. Somewhere, you're making all the choices you never dared to take. Somewhere, your life is wildly different, unrecognizable even to you. And yet, all these versions exist simultaneously, layered across realities you can't access or even perceive. It's a dizzying thought. The you reading this right now is just one leaf on an endless tree. Every regret, every what if, every chance missed, is alive in a parallel you who took a different path. That means freedom is vast but fragmented. Destiny is a kaleidoscope of possibilities. Your life isn't a single thread, but an infinite tapestry. But this raises haunting questions. If infinite versions of you exist, what does it mean to be you? Is identity fixed or fluid? Are your choices truly yours if every outcome happens somewhere? And what happens to the self when every fear, every hope, every failure plays out somewhere else, in another universe? The parallel universe theory stretches reality beyond comprehension and forces us to confront the limits of choice, identity, and existence. It means that somewhere, infinitely far or close, countless versions of you are alive, living the lives you imagined, feared, or forgot. And the one you are now is just one echo in a vast cosmic chorus of selves, forever branching, forever multiplying, forever existing beyond the grasp of time and space. You'll never remember your birth, and likely won't experience your death either. The beginning and the end of life are cloaked in mystery, wrapped in silence. No one remembers being born. You have no memory of that first breath, the world opening up in blinding light, the shock of existence itself. It's a universal gap in human experience, a black hole in the timeline of consciousness. And the truth is, You probably won't remember dying either. Birth is something your brain actively blocks. The earliest moments of life, the transition from womb to world, are beyond memory's reach because the neural pathways that form long-term memories aren't developed yet. Your brain is immature, fragile, overwhelmed. It can't record that trauma. So the moment you became a person is lost forever, buried in the fog of infancy. Death, on the other hand, is shrouded in uncertainty, but likely equally unreachable. Near-death experiences and clinical studies suggest that consciousness fades gradually or abruptly. The brain shuts down, neurons fail, and the coherent sense of self dissolves. Most people slip beyond awareness before life ends. Even if there is a final flicker, a last thought or feeling, it's unlikely to be stored or recalled. This means your life is framed by two enormous voids. The point where existence begins and the point where it ends are invisible to you. You are bookended by oblivion. The stories you tell yourself, the memories you treasure, the identity you build, all exist between these two unknowable states. The unsettling part is that your consciousness, the you experiencing this moment, is only a brief flare. A candle lit for a time between two great dark rooms. You will never know the first light, and most likely, you won't witness the final one. What you call life is just the flicker in between. And beyond that flicker lies the silence you will never remember or understand. Most people die with regret about how they spent their time, not how much they earned. As the final moments approach, the glimmer of status, the stacks of money, and the trophies gathered over a lifetime all fade into insignificance. What haunts people most isn't the size of their bank accounts or the titles they held. It's how they spent the fleeting, irreplaceable minutes and hours, the moments that slipped through their fingers, unnoticed and unlived. Regret rarely centers on wealth. It centers on time. Time wasted, time lost, time never fully owned. Studies and countless stories reveal a heartbreaking truth. When people reflect on their lives near the end, their deepest sorrows aren't about missed raises or material gains. They're about missed connections with loved ones, moments of joy they never allowed themselves, dreams they abandoned, and relationships they neglected. The hours spent grinding away at work while family waited, the fears that held them back from taking risks, the silent compromises made to keep peace or fit in. These become ghosts that whisper loudly in the quiet of mortality. Why is time the true currency? Because unlike money, it can't be earned back, saved, or spent twice. Every second is gone the moment it passes, and yet most people treat it as infinite. We fill days with busyness, chasing goals dictated by others, numbing ourselves with distractions, and postponing the things that really matter. The irony is brutal. We trade the only thing we truly own for things that, in the end, mean nothing. This truth is deeply uncomfortable. It exposes the hollowness behind social measures of success and the emptiness that can come with ambition untethered from meaning. It forces us to ask, what will you regret when your time runs out? What moments are you sacrificing today for illusions of wealth or status? Because when the end comes, it won't be your bank balance that speaks. It'll be the silence of empty rooms, the warmth of missed embraces, and the ache of time that slipped away unnoticed. Most people don't die wishing they had more money. They die wishing they had spent their time truly living. Your brain uses the same area to grieve lost relationships as it does to process physical pain. When someone you love leaves, or when a relationship shatters, the ache you feel isn't just emotional, it's physical. Scientific studies using brain imaging have revealed a startling truth. The regions that light up when we experience heartbreak or social rejection are the very same areas activated during physical pain. The sting of loss is real pain, carved into the neural circuits that register wounds, burns, and injuries. This means grief is not just a metaphor. When your heart breaks, your brain sends genuine pain signals. The loneliness, the yearning, the emptiness. It all maps onto circuits evolved to protect the body from harm. Social connections were vital for survival in human history. Being ostracized could mean death. So the brain treats social pain like physical danger, activating alarm systems that make rejection not just mentally devastating, but also viscerally intolerable. This overlap explains why emotional pain can feel so unbearable. It can cause physical symptoms, tightness in the chest, headaches, stomach aches. It can disrupt sleep, appetite, and immune function. Heartbreak isn't just sadness. It's a trauma the brain encodes as an injury. And because physical pain demands action, withdraw from a hot stove, protect a wounded limb, social pain similarly drives behavior, pushing us to reconnect, to seek comfort, or, in some cases, to shut down entirely. The frightening part? This pain can linger long after the relationship ends. Memories, reminders, even imagined scenarios reactivate the same pain centers, causing a chronic ache that wears down mental and physical health. It's why letting go can feel impossible, not just emotionally, but biologically. So the next time you feel shattered by loss, remember, your brain isn't exaggerating. The pain is real. It's wired into your survival. And healing is more than a matter of time. It's a process of soothing the body's deepest alarms, rewiring a brain designed to feel every wound as if it were flesh and bone. You can never truly be objective. Bias is baked into perception and emotion. We like to believe that with enough information, reason, and effort, we can see the world clearly, without distortion, without prejudice, without filters. But the harsh reality is that true objectivity is an illusion. Bias isn't a flaw or a glitch in the system. It's built into the very fabric of human perception and emotion. Your brain doesn't process reality neutrally. It processes it through a web of experiences, beliefs, fears, and desires that color every sight, sound, and thought. From the moment light hits your eyes, the data is already being filtered, edited, and interpreted. Your brain prioritizes information that confirms what it already believes and ignores what contradicts it. This is called confirmation bias, a powerful mental shortcut designed to reduce cognitive dissonance, but that narrows your view of truth. Memories are reshaped to fit narratives, facts are twisted to align with identities, and emotions steer your judgment without your awareness. Even your emotions, the very feelings that connect you to others, are biased. Fear exaggerates threats. Love blinds to faults. Anger magnifies injustice. When passion rises, reason falls. When your identity feels threatened, your brain retreats into defensiveness. This makes impartiality not just difficult, but biologically near impossible. Science itself struggles against this tide. Researchers must work tirelessly to control for bias, yet findings are influenced by culture, funding, and personal beliefs. Every conversation, every decision, every perception is entangled with subjective filters. This means that every view you hold, every fact you defend, every moral judgment you make is steeped in partiality. It's not just about ignorance or willful deception, it's about the architecture of the mind. The lens you see the world through is colored by your past, your fears, your desires. Understanding this can be unsettling. It means truth is never absolute. It means empathy requires humility, because no one's perspective is complete. And it means the search for objectivity is less about finding a pure, untouched reality, and more about recognizing your own biases, questioning them, and striving to see beyond the comfortable stories your mind tells you. You will never be perfectly objective. But the awareness of your biases, that is the first step toward clearer vision. We understand more about black holes than we do about the depths of human consciousness. It sounds incredible, almost absurd. The vast, mysterious universe, the stars, the galaxies, the black holes swallowing light itself, is better mapped and mathematically described than the world inside your own mind. Astrophysicists can predict the behavior of black holes, model their event horizons, and simulate the warping of space-time. Meanwhile, neuroscientists and philosophers still grapple with the very nature of consciousness, how subjective experience arises from tangled neurons, how self-awareness emerges from electric signals, or even what consciousness truly is. Black holes, once invisible enigmas, are now observed directly with telescopes. We have formulas explaining their mass, spin, and radiation. We can calculate how they bend reality itself. But consciousness remains a hard problem, a riddle that resists the tools of science. We don't know why electrical activity creates thoughts, feelings, or the vivid inner life you experience this moment. We don't understand how the brain's billions of cells cooperate to produce a sense of self, or why some brain states feel awake while others don't. This gap reveals something deeply unsettling. We have mastered the cosmos better than our own minds. We've sent probes beyond the solar system, yet the essence of what it means to be remains elusive. The universe outside is, in some ways, simpler than the universe inside. The brain's complexity is staggering, but the mystery isn't just complexity. It's the very nature of experience, the qualitative, what it's like to be alive. The paradox is humbling and frightening. We pride ourselves on knowledge, yet the greatest frontier is not out there. It's here, in the depths of awareness we barely understand. The black hole's darkness is easier to face than the shadows inside our own minds. And perhaps the most profound truth is this: while we can observe and quantify the death of stars, the birth and death of consciousness remain the greatest unknowns of all. You're more likely to die by accident than by most of the things you're actively afraid of. Fear is a powerful force. It shapes choices, controls behavior, and feeds anxiety. We worry about diseases, terrorism, violent crime, natural disasters, the things that haunt headlines and fill our minds with dread. But here's a jarring truth. Statistically, you are far more likely to die from an accident, something sudden, unexpected, and often entirely preventable, than from almost all the dangers you obsess over combined. Car crashes, falls, drowning, accidental poisoning, and fires claim millions of lives every year worldwide. These aren't the dramatic, cinematic deaths we imagine. They're mundane, quiet, often caused by slips, misjudgments, or sheer bad luck. A distracted driver, a moment's imbalance, a simple error in judgment. These accidents don't discriminate based on age, wealth, or location. They strike indiscriminately, without warning, and frequently without ceremony. Meanwhile, the threats we obsess over, terrorist attacks, shark attacks, serial killers, are statistically negligible. They capture our imagination because they're sensational, rare, and heavily covered in media. But that constant bombardment distorts perception. It tricks us into believing the improbable is imminent and the common is harmless. It makes us overlook everyday risks in favor of invisible, improbable ones. This disparity breeds a paradoxical vulnerability. People might avoid flying due to fear while driving daily without a seatbelt. They may panic about rare diseases but ignore basic health screenings. The brain is wired to focus on vivid, immediate threats, even if they're unlikely, and neglect slow, persistent dangers that are more lethal. Accepting this truth isn't meant to breed paranoia, but clarity. It's a call to re-examine fears, to recalibrate risk, and to recognize that life's greatest dangers often come disguised in the ordinary. The things that scare us least are often the things that hurt us most. And understanding that can shift how we live, love, and take care of ourselves in a world full of unpredictable moments. The internet is slowly becoming more permanent than any physical archive ever made. In a world where memories once faded with time and physical books decayed on dusty shelves, the internet has become a sprawling digital archive, vast, immediate, and seemingly eternal. Every photo uploaded, every message sent, every comment typed is stored in servers scattered across the globe, preserved in bits and bytes that defy the decay of paper and stone. Unlike traditional archives, the internet doesn't rot or crumble. It never forgets. This permanence is unsettling. What was once fleeting, a thought, a joke, a mistake, now exists indefinitely, searchable and shareable forever. Old posts from years ago resurface unexpectedly. Childhood photos can be dragged back into the light. Private conversations leak into public view. The digital footprint you leave today is not just a moment. It's a permanent record, a trace that can outlast you, your memories, even your physical body. Libraries and museums guarded their treasures carefully. The internet spills everything openly, chaotically, and with this permanence comes loss of control. What you delete might still exist in backups. What you intended for friends might be copied, archived, or hacked. The past is no longer a distant place. It's always just a click away. The scary truth is that future generations will be able to piece together entire lives from digital fragments. Your identity, your relationships, your secrets might be preserved without context or consent. This unprecedented permanence blurs the line between private and public, past and present, life and legacy. So while we race to create, connect, and share online, we are also creating a digital mausoleum, one that records every whisper, every stumble, every triumph. A place that will hold our stories far longer than any tombstone or monument. The internet isn't just the future of memory. It's the eternal archive of everything we once were, are, and will be. And whether that's a blessing or a curse remains to be seen. Human extinction is statistically inevitable, given enough time. It's a truth few want to face, buried beneath layers of hope, denial, and distraction. Humans, like every species before us, are destined to disappear. Not tomorrow, not next year, but given enough time, extinction is not just possible, it's statistically inevitable. Life on Earth is a story written in cycles of rise and fall, birth and death, creation and annihilation. No species, no matter how powerful, has escaped that fate. From tiny bacteria to massive dinosaurs, countless life forms have thrived for millions of years before vanishing without a trace. Extinction isn't cruel or unusual. It's the natural order. The fossil record is littered with reminders that survival is fragile. The planet itself changes, climates shift, continents drift, meteors strike. And even without external catastrophes, evolutionary pressures, genetic bottlenecks, and environmental shifts make permanence impossible. Humans have altered the planet more than any species, wielding technology, shaping ecosystems, and reshaping climate. Yet, these very achievements sow seeds of vulnerability. Nuclear weapons, pandemics, ecological collapse, artificial intelligence gone awry. These new dangers increase our risk. But even if humanity somehow avoids self-destruction, natural cosmic events, a supernova, an asteroid impact, the sun's eventual expansion, loom on timescales that dwarf our existence. The idea of extinction is often framed as a distant, abstract concept. But in reality, it's the endpoint of every biological lineage. It's the quiet future, waiting patiently beyond the present. No empire lasts forever. No culture endures beyond the stars. No body escapes the pull of time. Confronting this inevitability can be terrifying, but it also offers clarity. It strips away illusions of permanence, demanding that we cherish the fleeting moments we have. It challenges us to find meaning not in endless survival, but in the impact and love we leave behind. Because while humanity's extinction may be written in the stars, the story of what it means to be human is ours to write, for now.